race car going to turn itself down towards pit road once again, meaning the field is now in the command of Chad Simpson for what will be the final restart in this race. He picks up the pace. We are back to green flag racing. A good start there by Simpson, a good start by Ryan also. A little bit sloppier there by Martin Miller. He's under pressure from Cam Stark down in towards turn number 1. That could be a 2-horse race already, Rachel, as the drivers head themselves onto the back straightaway. Cam Stark has got a chance, but he needs to move past Martin Miller immediately on the back straightaway, and that is exactly what he's doing.
Could, might, should be, as they dance side to side here on the back straightaway. Marnie frowning outside there, Chad Simpson. He knows he has to get to the front and defend that if he has any hope at all of a caution coming out in this race. Simpson on the inside though, going to the low side, has a good run there, but it's going to have Cam Start behind, nudge Money. This is it, Will. This is about to become a 4-horse race.
3 laps to go as they come down in towards turn number 1. Simpson leads again from Nigel Marnie. Miller is back in the picture as well. There you can see your top 6 drivers. They are barely separated by a blanket as they work themselves out of corner number 2. Down the back straightaway, Miller tags the wall there. That's going to force this field down to a 2-horse race once again. Cam Stark avoids, and now it's going to mean that Nigel Marnie is going to look to the outside as they work themselves down in towards turn number 3. Simpson has got enough to stay there in play, but Simpson leads with 5 miles of racing remaining, and now Marnie is going to have to find a way past. He's done it on the high side before, Rachel. He looks to the high side once again. 2 laps to go.
It won't be in turn 1. He's going to have to save this one up, but here comes Cam Stark in P3. Got a very, very fast Apex Racing UK car there, Will, but has he got anything there for the HMB car of Narneef? Narneef's so good here in the final laps, but Simpson under threat. Turn 1 is not a good spot, but we have to see this happen in turn 3. He'll have to start there.
There are 6 corners remaining. They're almost going to go 3 wide down in towards turn number 3. Stark getting boxed out. Marneef having to go early. Down in towards turn number 3. And going to be Nigel Marneef back to the point. 1 more lap to go of this event down towards the yard of bricks. Nigel Marneef is 1 lap away from making history. Chad Simpson is having to defend for all he's worth. 2 miles of racing to go. Down in the final lap then. Nigel Marneef leads by 2 tenths of a second from Chad Simpson. Simpson now has got himself 2 corners to catch and pass Nigel Marneef, but Cam Stark is in the mix as well. If they battle for position, that means it's going to be Marneef who is going to do it all by himself. Stark around the outside. He moves himself up into 2nd place, but I don't think he'll have enough to catch up to the rear of Nigel Marneef in the final corner. Here they come towards the start-finish line. It will be Nigel Marneef trying to hold on. It's going to be a drag race to the start-finish line. Cam Stark try to steal it away at the line. It will be Nigel Marneef winning. This we'll get confirmation at the line, but it's going to be a photo finish there. We need to get ourselves another look. It's a photo finish. Our result will come up on your screen any second now, and it is Cam Stark by 8 1/1000ths of a second. Well, yesterday it was 41 1/1000ths of a second, Rachel. Cam Stark today stole from Nigel Marneef, or he stole from Joshua Chin yesterday. Marneef almost did the impossible. He loses out by 8 1/1000ths of a second. Cam Stark is the winner in the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. Pavelski is driving away. One of the biggest leads we've seen. That's behind. They're all scrapping for positions, but no one can touch Matt Pavelski. As down to the inside, straight up into P number 2. We've got ourselves 5 to go. 2 seconds. Aaron, are you ready?
Does Trano have it? Does he have it? Pavelski last lap of 40.5. Trano needs... Well, he's going to need to put in the best laps of his career. Looking at his best, he on lap 190 ran a 40.2. He is going to need to run qualifying style laps. This lap time really isn't going to give us a gauge of what type of speeds can be run, but best thing for Trano is if somebody can get close and give a little bit of assistance. But with that passing, he lost another 4/10 the margin. 2.1, 5 to go.
5 to go, 12.5 miles to go, Paul.
And it looks like Tim Holgate almost nailed the wall again. got, but Pavelski is just taken off. He is left, and Trano, I've got to say, that is the move of the race. Trano took care of 3 cars in 2 corners there, and it's just an unbelievable. This is just the way Trano is. When the chips are down, he's just going to hammer it. If he makes it, great. If he doesn't, great. Whatever. At least he tried. That's Trano's way. He has given it all he's got right now to try and chase down Pavelski, and it's got to be frustrating to see that Pavelski is not getting any bigger in front of him.
Pavelski has got a 2.2 second advantage right now over Brandon Trano. And this actually, if it finishes like this, will be the biggest Indy 500 finish we have seen here in the 7 years of broadcasting this event, Aaron. Pavelski is on the verge of making history in that Rockstar machine.
And this is where you try to tune everything out. It's not over till you cross the line and the twin checkers are flying. Ask J.R. Hildebrand, ask Robbie Gordon. Those are 2 drivers that led on lap 199 and did not win the race. Very easy to let emotions, let thoughts get into your head. Be perfect, hit the marks. If his spotters are telling him you're pulling away, don't worry about it. Just run your line. You're on lap 198, settle down, just finish this. This is yours, but when you're leading late, the adrenaline's pumping, your heart's pumping, it's easy to drop a wheel.
Marnif
behind
Trano.
Nearly caught the wall in turn 1, and yep, that's what I'm calling Marnif. Marnif is all over Trano. Trano just brushed the wall out of 1, and Marnif just stomped on him.
And look at this then, Trano taking the defensive line. Marnif is there right behind him, in towards turn 1. A caution now, of course, will end it. And we've never seen this race finish under caution. But hey, Aaron, 1.5 laps to go. Here we go. Pavelski is on the verge of making history.
And what a win that would be. He's been a breakthrough driver this past year, but you speak about the yellows, Marnif and Trano for P2 are doing everything they can to end that streak. What a battle for P2. Pavelski off of 4, white flag will be in the air.
1 more lap to go then, and again Trano versus the driver of Nigel Marnif. They're going to play defensive, but Marnif's going to look to the outside. The white flag is out. 1 more lap to go here at Indy. Through turn 1 they come, and Marnif can't do anything yet. They head themselves now on the exit of turn 2. Marnif actually loses a little bit of time as they head themselves now down towards turn 3 and 4. I don't think Marnif is going to be close enough yet. Ray Alfano is out of this motorway. He spun it around there on the final lap of this race, but it's okay for Matt Pavelski. He will run it to the line. Out of turn 4 he comes, and once again, a new winner here in the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Matt Pavelski joins one of the most illustrious groups in all of sim racing. Matt Pavelski will win here at IMS. Trano will come in second. Nigel Marnif in third. Tim Holgate in fourth. Alex Simpson rounds out your top 5, and for Ray Alfano, well, it's been on the final lap of the motor race. That is the definition of heartbreak. But today, it is Matt Pavelski's day. The number 10 machine there. What a drive, what a race, what a way to make yourself a part of one of the immortal groups of iRacing. Pavelski wins. Pavelski wins.
The other guys just want it just like a little bit more here today. Pace car, pit road. 6 laps to go. And they start now. And SPT gets a pretty good start there. Demerit was caught napping a little bit. In towards turn 1 they come. High side, Tim Holgate, Brandon Trost through turn 1. Still side by side, through turn 2. Holgate can't complete the pass, and that allows Demerit to come on the attack. And you see Trost playing the ultra defensive line, but he's got to be careful now, because if he does that for too much longer, as they go 3 wide, and a bit of a bump there from Demerit. Demerit now side by side with Tim Holgate into turn 3 here, Randy.
Brandon Trost is driving ultra defensive, and I have to say, the way Trost is driving, I honestly don't think he's going to win this race. He realizes he's put himself after that move with Josh that no one's going to give him an inch, no one's going to work with him, and because of that, he has to go ultra defensive. Holgate picks up the second spot, and I think Trost is going to continue to fall here. If Demerit sees an open window, he's stepping through it.
A caution now will end this motor race. Austin Asperty, he's going to play the defensive card. Here comes Holgate looking to the outside. Turn number 3 and 4. Don't forget, slightly fresher tyres for Tim Holgate. The same will apply to the driver of Christopher Demerit. Round the outside will go Tim Holgate to the race lead. There's going to be now 10 miles worth of racing to go as well. Here we are then. Holgate leads, then Espartee, then Demerit as Espartee back down to the inside, in towards turn number 1, 3 wide, in towards turn number 1, Cisco.
Please, nobody make a mistake. But Demerit on the inside. He's going to come through turns 2 right now. A fantastic run out of nowhere for the 5. He got blocked by Espartee just 1 lap ago. Able to keep it moving. To the lead goes the 5. But now here comes the 9 of Espartee. He's going to jump on the inside. Into turn 3 goes the 9. And does he have enough to win this thing?
It's a case of pick a lane. I would argue that maybe Tim Holgate has trimmed that car out too much, because Brandon Trost now looks down to his inside on the exit of turn number 4, side by side. We know that Christopher Demerit has been the fastest driver to the stripe all day long, but he doesn't make it that time by. Espartee leads a lap at the line. There'll be 2 to go at the line. Demerit versus Espartee as they work themselves now through turn number 2, and well, Demerit all of a sudden is in the catbird seat, but here comes Holgate looking down to the inside as well. It looks as though coming down to 2 to go, we still got a 5-horse race here, Randy.
Inside of about 7 miles left to go, and Tim Holgate's going to pick up the 2nd spot from Austin Espartee. Brandon Trost shuffled to 4th, and he's just stayed there. He's been fighting as well with the 4 machine of Josh Scrupas. Trost's going to look to the ultra high line off of 4, not going to make it stick, and here goes Tim Holgate inside of 5 miles left to the inside of Chris Demerit. He's going to beat Demerit to the line as well. 2 to go, penultimate time into 1.
So here they are then, less than 5 miles to go, and Holgate back to the race lead. It does look as though it's a 2-horse race, as it's now going to be Trost versus Espartee going side by side. They are very close together as they now work themselves towards the north end of the racetrack once again. But Demerit is right now on the coattails of Tim Holgate. They work themselves to the white flag this time by. It's Holgate versus Demerit, arguably a 2-horse race now, because the drivers behind them have been squabbling for position. Demerit looking down to the inside as the white flag will come out. 1 more lap to go here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as Christopher Demerit has the race lead through turn number 1. He has the race lead through turn number 2. Can Tim Holgate do anything here as he gets himself a run through the back straightaway? They come for the final time, and Holgate will look himself to the outside as Christopher Demerit goes ultra defensive there on the low side. It may well cost him, because here comes Holgate. He has the outside line through the final corner for the final time. Once again, photo finish here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Holgate? It's going to be Christopher Demerit at the line, just costing Holgate a shot at immortality. Demerit wins his first and costs Holgate the chance of winning his second. Christopher Demerit will win the 2017 iRacing Indianapolis 500. Demerit Broken Arrow will win their 3rd iRacing Indianapolis 500. Christopher Demerit win his first, and Tim Holgate at the line loses out by inches here today. But inches means nothing, and Cisco, we always talked about it. If it came down to the run to the line, all day long, Christopher Demerit has been the best driver towards a yard of bricks, and he does so with the race victory now, as the Broken Arrow number 5 machine will slow it down for the donuts. That's it. 2.5 miles remain in this event. 2.5 miles between immortality and being the 2nd place driver that no one ever remembers. It's Martin Miller, from Josh Trin, from Andrew Kinsella, Austin Espartee, and Adam Blocker, with Jeff Drake, Kevin Ellis Jr., Bradley Walters, Simon Bryant, and Marcus Jensen running out your top 10. Here we are, waiting for the green flag for the final time here. White flag and green flag are in the air One more lap to go at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We go on board with the driver of Martin Miller. What can he do? Through turn number 1, Joshua Chin looking down to the inside already as they work themselves through turn number 2. Now it's that long run down the back straightaway. Andrew Kinsella works himself down to the inside of the driver of Joshua Chin. Maybe they're going to go 3 wide. Look at this, in towards the final couple of corners. Joshua Chin, Andrew Kinsella, Martin Miller's turned around. Joshua Chin will stay on. It's him and Andrew Kinsella, a drag race to a line. It's a new winner, but who's it going to be at the line? It will be just about Joshua Chin winning here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It was a photo finish once again, 13 1,000ths of a second. Let's have another look and let's pause it at the line, right, Randy? Wait, that's just after the line. And you can see the two come together. Oh my word, it was so close. As we have a look past the line, Joshua Chin wins the iRacing Indy 500. One of the most unluckiest guys in the IndyCar community has now finally won the big one.
I think Brandon Traino had better be lucky we don't have punctures yet, because the left front end plate of Blocker's car, I think, clipped the right rear tire of Traino. The 19 car up the inside in towards turn 3, and look who's closed the gap. Kevin Ellis Jr. in the 2 is there and part of this battle, but does he have the car that can do it? We know that Dirty Air there in that 3rd spot is immeasurable and has been terrible for drivers all race long. It's always been the top 2 at the head of a line that can really be dominant. 4 laps to go.
Kevin Ellis Jr. has closed back up to within 3/10 of a second of this duo, and look how close there the two were. Traino going right in front of Adam Blocker as they work through turn number 2. Blocker, we're on board of him right now. Less than 10 miles of this race to go as Blocker goes down to the inside line as they come down towards turn number 3. Your top 2, look at that. Kevin Ellis Jr. almost tried to slide you into 3 that time by Randy.
I don't think he was going to try to slide the 3 of Brandon Traino. That would have been a bit over aggressive, but I think regardless, he drove it too hard into 3. He was right on the rear wing of Brandon Traino, and then look how much he had to check it up. 3 to go as Traino's up the inside, and a yellow will end the race from here.
Yep, so it is now a case of, remember, this has never finished under yellow flag conditions before. Brandon Traino looking to win his first broadcasted iRacing Indy 500. He's been so successful at this track before, but he lost a race a couple of years ago due to some poor strategy. Adam Blocker in the Powerslide Motorsports number 19 machine. They get so close on the apex of turn 3 and 4 there. Adam Blocker, though, also looking to win Powerslide Motorsports first Indy 500. 5 miles to go, Randy.
And they are side by side for the top 2. Kevin Ellis Jr. slipstreams right up to the back of Adam Blocker, but he just can't deal with the dirty air through the entry in the center of 1. Off of 2 and down the back straightaway for the penultimate time. Brandon Traino is just hugging that inside line, not giving Adam Blocker's number 19 an inch in towards turn 3 for the second to final time. And Blocker stuck on the outside. Ellis is there. Will we get the 3-horse battle on the white flag lap? It looks like it off of turn 4, white flag at the yard of bricks, and Traino's gonna lead lap 199, but who will lead lap number 200?
Here we go then, white flag out, 1 more lap to go, 3 drivers in it for the 2019 iRacing Indy 500. Traino has the inside line through turn number 1 and through turn number 2. Blocker is gonna have to fall behind if he wants to make that slipstream work. We're on board right now with Adam Blocker, the defensive line being taken by Brandon Traino as they head themselves now down towards turn number 3 for the final time. Kevin Ellis Jr. is there or thereabouts, but it looks as though it's going to be a photo finish one more time here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Traino on the inside line, Blocker on the outside line, and it looks as though Brandon Traino will win the 2019 iRacing Indy 500 by 13 1/1000 thousandths of a second. The dream has finally come true for Brandon Traino after coming oh so close so many times here at Indianapolis. He finally wins his first ever iRacing Indy 500 feature race, and the gap, the margin at the end was 13.1 thousandths of a second. What a run we've had. And well, Randy, that is exactly the same finishing margin as we had exactly 1 year ago. You know what? Normally, at this time of the year, we'd be building up to the greatest spectacle in all of racing. But this is not normal times. This is a very different time, but one thing remains the same. We are building up to the 11th running of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. The race that every month of May has been a stalwart in the iRacing calendar. Many people call it the greatest spectacle in all of sim racing. And even though it's not the 33 drivers who run at Indianapolis for the last weekend of May, these are the 33 greatest sim racers who do the hardest challenge that any sim racer can do. That he speeds are over 230 miles an hour down into turn number 1. They work themselves side by side alongside these long straightaways. And one driver will once again claim sim racing immortality. This is a race that no driver has ever won twice. And it's a race that here today has got a stacked field of competitors. We've got former series champions from IndyCar. We got the 2011, the 2012 Indy 500 champion running here today. We got Young O and Tim Doyle. We got some of the new breed who's racing here today as well, and they'll all be doing so here live on iRacing, the iRacing Esports Network, and here on RaceBot TV. You know what? Even though May might just be a little bit messed up right now, we are still here, and we are still going to give you 3.5 hours of exciting racing, where at the end of the day, one driver will get themselves a chance to etch themselves into sim racing immortality. I'm joined today by Aaron Likens and Rob Howden. Rob, I'm going to come to you first. This race is one of those that makes our hearts beat just a little bit more. It's one of those races that, you know what, normally at the end of May, we say it's game on. Yes, the Indy 500 has been moved a couple of months back, but for us, the sim racers, the month of May is still alive, and that heart is still a beating.
Yeah, one of the beauties of the iRacing platform and sim racing is the fact that we're able to go ahead with this amazing event. As you said, the 11th running of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. I'm thrilled to be part of the broadcast. Thank you so much for bringing me on with you and Aaron. Like you said, Indianapolis, there's just nothing like it in the world. It's the greatest spectacle in racing, and every time you go to the event, every time you even go to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and you go under the bridge and you emerge inside that racetrack, you start to get the goosebumps. And for me right now, super excited to get us started here. One thing, Will, just getting into this race was an accomplishment in and of itself, but for the 33 drivers who are set to potentially go to victory lane at the end of the day, this is going to be a long afternoon. It's going to be stressful. Strategy is going to come into play. You got to be smart. I'm just excited to get things underway here and to see who ends up being our victor at the end of the day.
And Aaron, I think you and I have got more Indy 500 broadcasts and iRacing than any other duo. It's great to have you back in 2020 for the iRacing Indianapolis 500. This field is absolutely stacked.
I've been sitting here trying to figure out who can win. Well, if you're in this race, you can win. Drivers we have seen for the past about decade, Will, the names of who's who, they're in this race. So whether you're starting 33rd or first, you have a chance. And as Rob said, just making this race is an absolute huge honor. But that'll be no solace to these drivers if they don't win today. This is what the sim racers, this is everything into one. Call it the Super Bowl Indy 500. This is the one race on everyone's calendar that when it's tomorrow, all these drivers are going to be working towards next year's 500. But today, a year's worth of work is on the line, and there's going to be one happy driver and 32 disappointed drivers. They're all champions, but only one can take the checkered flag here today.
And the thing is, Aaron, is that you and I, we call so many of these races, and often we always talk about the fact that it always comes down to that run to the checkered. It's got to be worth noting that in the history of this broadcasted race, the race has never finished under yellow. So it's always been a run to the flag at the end of the race. And that basically means that you've got to negotiate 800 corners, 7 pit stops, and make sure that you're in position in those last 30 laps to make it work.
If we get a yellow inside lap 160, fire up the calculators, because a driver may try to make it to the end. It's so often, well, we see that yellow in between lap 158 and 164, and if one driver can make it the rest of the way on that pit stop, they will steal the victory. We saw that in the iRacing Indy 500 in 16 and in the real version. So strategy is always amazing, but you mentioned 800 corners. You have to be perfect all 800 corners, and you sort of have to see the future with your strategy. Where will the yellows fall? Where will the lap traffic be? Your strategy has to be perfect, and you got to predict what will the flow of the race be for that strategy to work.
It's also worth noting my favorite Indy 500 of all time, 2011. Bertrand Baguette almost won the Indy 500 that year. Danica Patrick almost won the Indy 500 that year. J.R. Hildebrand was that close to winning the Indy 500 that year. Of course, Dan Weldon did in 2011. But Indy wouldn't be Indy without the famous song Back Home Again in Indiana. And the good thing about being in the sim racing world is that we can do things the old style. To do that, we welcome in the voice of the immortal Mr. Jim Neighbors.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still burning bright through the sycamores for me. The new moon hay sends all its fragrance through the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana home.
You know what, Rob? I love Straight to Chaser. I love Jim Corneliuson, mainly because of the fact that one day I want to go to Chicago and hear him sing the U.S. national anthem at a Blackhawks game. But there's no one that epitomizes Indy more than Jim Corneliuson.
You know, you use the term iconic when you hear that song and Jim Neighbors, and I just absolutely love it. You said that Jim Cornelius has done it for the last couple of years, a great gentleman, and his rendition obviously rocks everyone at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Always brings goosebumps to my arms, as I said before, but Jim Neighbors is really the icon about this event, is he not? You hear that song. It's funny. I said to a friend of mine yesterday, knowing that I was going to be doing this race today, I just kept singing Back Home Again in Indiana all day. It's just part of the event. It's such an iconic component of the Indianapolis 500. Great to have it on our broadcast as well.
Had a look over at the little middle straight that they use for the road course, of course, the Indy Grand Prix, but also the Formula One Grand Prix that I've had over the years. And it's a huge parking lot over at the Indy 500 weekend. Of course, the big pagoda. Aaron, you and I both been to the pagoda. It is a mountain, but also it's steeped in so much history.
If you go into under the tunnel from 16th Street, if you don't get chills, well, then you're not a racing fan. Coming under that tunnel, seeing the pagoda on race day, well, I have to admit, hearing Back Home Again in Indiana just now, got a little misty-eyed that we're not going to be there in 8 days. We will be there in 2 months, but not in May. So you did mention different world, but come August when we're there, seeing the side of the pagoda, race day morning, on the sunrise, that's going to be life right there.
Quote a UK song, we'll meet again. Don't know when, but we will meet again. With that, we are going to hand it over to our honorary starter. He is a 3-time Indy 500 winner. He is Team Penske's Elio Castroneves to give you the starting command.
Hi everyone, I'm Team Penske driver Elio Castroneves and welcome to the virtual Indy 500. A race I've won 3 times, in real life by the way. To all sport drivers, start your engines!
That's Elio Castroneves there giving the starting command. We'll talk more about that as we go through the race, but here is a look at your starting grid for the 2020 iRacing Indianapolis 500, and it's Michele Constantini from Italy at the front row of that grid. Alongside him, we Brandon Traino on the RLR eSports car. Kevin Lance Jr., 3rd place, to Chad Simpson in 4th. We roll it back down to P number 5, Tanner Watkins. Jason Brophy on row number 3, Zach Campbell, Jon Half in row number 4, row 5, Jeff Drake, and Liam Quinn as we head back to row number 6, Aaron.
Yeah, as we go through the field, row number 6, we've got, oh, sorry, I lost my place there, 6A. We've got Matt Pavelski and Austin Espety. I'm expecting that row to be, watch for those two coming up. Espety really isn't a mid-packer. He likes being at the front. Behind them, Philip Kraus and Ray Kingsbury. Look for Kingsbury to make moves early. Wood and Blocker in the row back. Brandon Traino, look for him as well. He is one of the best drivers in traffic, manipulating the air. So watch for him coming up. Through this race, Will, we're going to see drivers moving up, moving back. The strategy here going to be amazing as we continue through the field. Rob.
Yeah, let's go to row number 11 right now. Matt Hollaball in the 32 will start on the inside. Henry Bennett, watch for him on the outside of the number 12. Austin Espety, on what I'm seeing, starting in the 23rd spot alongside Ray Kingsbury. That'll be row 12. Row 13, Adam Blocker alongside Adam Crane. Blocker could be a driver to go for the race win, as Will had mentioned earlier. Capping off the field, Jonathan Goke back in the 29th position. João Valverde in 30th. And then the final driver, Tim Doyle, starting 33rd, final driver into the field.
Tim Doyle has won an iRacing Indy 500 in the past. He won it back in 2011. Pace car on towards pit road. Let's go racing for 500 miles here at Indianapolis. Green flag in the air. Here we go for 2020 iRacing Indy 500. And that first question, as always, will they all make it through turn number 1 and turn number 2? Your top 10 look to be okay right now as they work down onto the back straightaway here, Rob.
Same as with the real-life Indianapolis 500. Everyone holds their collective breath around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They'll work their way down to turn number 3 for the first time. Clean through the opening couple of corners. Excellent start to this year's edition of the race. Drivers sliding in, one driver pulling out front, make that 2, lining up. Here they come into turn number 4. Will for the first time, back to the yard of bricks.
Yep, so we're green for the end of lap number 1. We're on board right now as this is the battle for P number 6 on track. Down in towards turn number 1 again. Zach Campbell in that Rahal Letterman racing car. Up into P number 6 right now. This is a new partnership here, Aaron, by the way, between Broken Arrow, Apex Racing, and the RLR team. So good to see the real-life IndyCar team coming into esports.
Yeah, I can't imagine being on that team and landing a partnership and a sponsorship like that. That has shows that hard work does pay off and adds just a little bit more pressure, I would think, to perform here today.
Of course, Bobby Rahal has won an Indy 500 or 2 in his time. As we look at that, Zach Campbell up into 3rd place, Rob.
Yeah, pretty good run down the front straightaway, making that draft move, got to the inside, got 2 spots. Campbell keeps the car down to the bottom of the racetrack, so excellent start here for Campbell, as you said, working his way forward. Zach in the number 2 machine up behind Constantini. Brandon Traino now goes to the lead. I like the early action out. I like the fact that drivers have settled in. As we know, 200 laps. It's going to be a long afternoon. Normally we see some issues early on, but these drivers have settled in. This bodes well for what could be a very interesting afternoon of competition.
At the front of your field, you've got Brandon Traino, who's just been passed there by Michele Constantini. That will move Constantini up into 1st place. Brandon Traino down into 2nd place and being hunted right now by Zach Campbell. So Constantini on the move early. And think about this is, Rob, early on, you want to have that clean air. Fuel mileage, yes, it's important, but sometimes the way your setup works, we've seen over the years here in the iRacing Indy 500, if you got a setup that works better in clean air, you want to make sure you get that race lead.
For me as well, I think when you have that race lead, obviously you take yourself out of the potential to be involved in an instant 3rd, 4th, 5th on back. So always clean up front. You got the clean air. The car will run as best as it possibly can. Yeah, you may burn a little more fuel, as you said, punching that hole in the air for everyone behind you. But especially early on, I think being out front is key. Keep yourself out of trouble. And we'll continue to watch the field as other drivers start to get themselves into a position to jump to the P1.
Brandon Traino back to the top of the timing stands right then. So he has got himself past Michele Constantini, and he is back up to the race lead, getting himself over Michele Constantini just for the moment as it stands. Just to let you know, all 33 drivers here, Aaron, they are all still running in this race. So no retirees in the first 5 laps of this event.
And first 33rd right now separated by just 4.7 seconds. If you start in the back, right now that is a safe place to be. This race traditionally, we do see yellows, and right now with the leaders swapping back and forth, it only takes 1 slip for us to lose a good chunk of the field. Of course, nobody wants to be that guy early in a race when you've worked all year for this one event, but it did mention fuel tires. Our fuel window here today, we're looking, if you're out front in clean air running full rich, you're looking at only about 30 laps. If you're at the back of this train, you might be able to stretch it 35. So should we go green the whole race, that's asking a lot, but should you get those 4 or 5 extra laps, you're looking at 1 less stop here today. So it's never too early to start thinking about fuel mileage.
One driver who I want to pay attention to in a moment's time, because we still got side-by-side going on for your race lead between Constantini and Brandon Traino, and Brandon Traino will take that race lead back in towards turn 3 in that short shoot, is Scotty McLaughlin in the number 9 position right now in the number 6 car. And let's be honest here about Scotty, he is a driver here, Rob, who has been so successful in V8 supercars. He's running with the Apex Racing Team stroke i5G Broken Arrow car here today. Scotty is so great in Australian V8 supercars. He's one of these dream drivers that we'd love to see at the Indy 500, and well, to be fair, we're supposed to be seeing him in a week's time.
I think Oh, sorry, Will.
Not yet.
Yeah, well, this is it. The interesting thing is I think that Scott is one of the coolest stories that we have right now in the entire IndyCar program. You know, he came over with Team Penske. He was going to do just a test at Sebring.
Yeah.
You know, all the guys came down. Will Power was there. Joseph Newgarden was there. Simon Pagenaud all came to see their potential teammate. We all wondered what was going on with Scott McLaughlin. Would we see him in a race? Well, that race became maybe 2, maybe 5, maybe the Indianapolis 500. I think with no question, we're going to see Scott McLaughlin in the IndyCar program full time, maybe as early as 2021. I think that they know that down in the supercar world, that he's coming over here pretty soon. A great young guy, and of course, tremendous on the iRacing platform as well. Does a lot of driving, and I think he's going to be a superstar in IndyCar. I really do.
I think it was given to him as a present, Aaron. We're doing so well in V8 Supercars with Penske. The chance to come and run in IndyCars. Scott McLaughlin is going to be one of these drivers who we all would love to see. And I'm going to be honest, I'd love to see McLaughlin versus Alonso around this racetrack.
Oh, that would be a dream. Absolutely a dream finish. Just imagine the different parts of the world sitting on the edges of their couches. If we go lap 198 coming to white, and it's those two drivers side by side. Not that far of a stretch of the imagination with the skill of both drivers. And McLaughlin's really embraced the IndyCar community here on iRacing, and whenever we do see him behind the wheel, it's going to be really interesting to see how he runs, and is really going to add to the fan base down in Australia.
Well, let's talk quickly about the movers and shakers in any race so far. The biggest mover inside your top 10, well, that is either Scott McLaughlin or Matt Pavelski. Pavelski, of course, here, Aaron, is a former Indy 500 champion. And who can forget that fantastic run he had to the flag just a couple of years ago? He's running as part of that Broken Arrow i5G Apex Racing Team car here today, running in P number 6 up 5 places already. We're only 11, maybe now 12 laps into this race.
Pavelski's smooth is the word I would use to describe him. He very rarely will put a wheel wrong, and he very rarely will put himself in a position that he's going to have to rely on the other driver to give a little bit of room to prevent both of them crashing. Just an all-around solid driver. Also can go a little bit heavy on strategy, which I love to see the strategy game. Watch for Pavelski. I think if he wanted to, he could move up here, but running in 6, 5 cars in front of him, he is saving just that little bit of fuel right now.
Also up 5 positions, however, Rob, is Joshua Chin from P20 to P15. And Josh Chin, again, also a former Indy 500 champion. We go on board of him right now, actually. The hashtag blame Randy car. We also see a look inside the wheel of Joshua Chin. He's a long-established IndyCar driver, he is, Rob. We've talked about him in things like the Classic IndyCar Series, of course, in the old-style ISOWC, but we've also here, of course, in the iRacing Indy 500. Chin knows how to work his way forward, and he was looking there on the rear of Philip Kraus for P14.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying watching him and getting this inside look at Joshua Chin. I've been lucky, of course, calling the Classic IndyCar Series here on Race Spot. He won at Fontana and then backed it up with another victory on the Oval at Phoenix International Raceway. So he is really adding to the Oval chops here. And as you said, a former winner of this race, the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Got to look for him to be in the fight for sure to the very end. Like I said, not running exactly where he needs to be right now. But Aaron, you mentioned it earlier. P15 early on, 14 laps into a 200 lap. I think probably Joshua, a guy with a lot of experience and a lot of patience and poise, probably just biding his time right now.
Yeah, right now there's no glory for running 9th on lap 25. So stick to your strategy, and I'm sure all these drivers thought about this race all night last night. They've come up with a strategy, and when you go with the strategy, you got to stick with it. If you start waffling between two, bad things usually happen. As Chin thought about going to the inside, that right there shows he is thinking about fuel. No reason to move up right now. The more cars that you have in front of you, the better the gas mileage.
The thing is as well, Rob, what I saw from Chin, that was a very, very smooth movement behind that steering wheel. A lot of the time people think that in iRacing Indy 500, you got to be all over that wheel, but actually no. The smoother you are, the faster you are.
I think right now as well, the driver in front of him is Liam Quinn, his teammate at Team Chimera. So no need to try to risk something, a low percentage pass early on. Let's just settle in. Like we talked about, Aaron, you even mentioned the fuel a little bit. Could we go green to checker? It's not very likely, but it could potentially happen. And if indeed that did happen, then potentially saving fuel is a key right now. So there's Chen just tucked underneath the gearbox of his teammate Liam Quinn. Everything going good so far, knocking the laps off, probably around halfway into the initial stint. I think we talked about the fact somewhere around maybe 30 laps, maybe 33, 34 if you're doing a lot of saving. So about halfway through this opening stint, and everybody playing clean so far.
I talked about it in my very quickly rushed promo. 7 pit stops. That's what we're looking for. 7 pit stops here today. One thing I am also doing is looking back to P number 30 on track and Tim Doyle, because Tim Doyle didn't qualify that well here, Aaron, but we know Tim Doyle doesn't qualify well. He's made it into this race. He's a former iRacing Indy 500 champion, the oldest Indy 500 champion in the field here today. And Tim Doyle is always one of those drivers that he will go off strategy, off kilter, will work the field when he needs to, play it safe when he needs to. But if Tim Doyle finishes 30th here today, I'll be mighty surprised.
Looking at the spotter stand and on the crew box, he's got Young O on the pit box, and he was the king of going off strategy, doing strategies that, well, going back to I think the 16th Street League, you and I would go, we would be at break and we'd both be going, he lost the race, he was dominating, he lost, there's no chance he's going to win. And somehow he always put the words back in our mouth and he'd win. We would look like we didn't know what we were talking about. So look for that out of Doyle today. If there's anybody I'd want calling my race, it would be O, because somehow what he does always seems to work.
Yeah, and Young, of course, had the fastest qualifying time of anyone for this iRacing Indianapolis 500. Not running here today, but kind of the thing here is, Rob, if you can set the fastest qualifying time and you don't race, you're still kind of flexing those muscles a little bit.
I was going to say, how do you not come out and race after you qualified P1? But you're right. That is a little feather in the cap, I guess you could say. I qualified top of the chart, but I'm not going to race. I'm going to work with another driver to see if we can't get him moving forward. Again, you never know what everybody's circumstances are coming into the race weekend. Maybe something happened here on a Saturday. They weren't able to run, but we do have 33 drivers who are ready to rock, and Brandon Trano continues to lead. You get a couple of tenths over Michele Constantini. Those two drivers have kind of settled in together. Zach Campbell right up in the fight, as is Kevin Ellis Jr. and Johan Harth. I'm really interested in how this race is playing out, because Aaron, I think you and I talked before the broadcast that we do normally see yellows. I'm surprised we haven't seen one quite yet. I like, though, the potential of having green flag pit stops. That always makes me intrigued. We saw in the fixed race that we did last weekend a couple of drivers having trouble getting woed up into pit lane. We had a number of pit lane speeding penalties, which really changed the complexion of the race. If we do have green flag pit stops and drivers rolling in off the track at full speed, that could certainly change early on the storyline of a couple of these competitors.
Yeah, if traditionally in this race, we will see a 100-lap green flag run. Now that I've said it, let's hope we see it, but we usually see 2 or 3 green flag pit stops minimum, and you got to be perfect. You can't beat yourself. We saw that last week. Several drivers did beat themselves, even coming under pits under yellow, which this race, the field isn't separated by that much. You got to get what you can when you can. So if that is hitting the speed cones right at the limit, that's what these drivers are going to do today. So expect to see 1 or 2 drivers just mysteriously vanish from perhaps the top 10, top 15, because they unfortunately were caught speeding down pit road.
You know what, actually, Owen, I'm going to be slated by my old teammate, John Porzak. Technically, I'm still his teammate, but John Porzak lost it in Indy 500. You remember a couple of years ago, Aaron, because he sped on pit road on that last pit stop. And I always say, you're going to make the incident, you make it early, because that gives you the opportunity to recover. The thing is, we always talk about the count back. We always talk about make sure that you're there at the end. You've got to make sure that every time you come on towards pit road, you make it work and you slow down just to that 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, thinking about that several years ago with Porzak, if that were me, I don't know how, you just don't get over that. Every month of May, you're going to be reminded that that race should have been yours. You should have been on that short list of winners of the iRacing Indy 500. Very much reminiscent sort of Scott Goodyear back 95. Should have won, penalty cost him. Don't beat yourself, don't make that mistake. I'd rather be beat straight up, or I think I'd be okay with somebody taking me out in the final corner. Well, I wouldn't be okay with it, but that would be better than getting a speeding in the pits, because that's something that's just going to gnaw at you.
You know what, Aaron? You've gone 23 laps. We talked about Scott Goodyear, and we haven't talked about weight jackers or anti-roll bars. I can't believe it. Congratulations, you win a cookie.
The perfect segue to talk about our in-race adjustments.
Yeah, indeed, Rob. And of course, these Indy cars, they are incredibly technical. And this is actually what makes an Indy 500 one of the harder races on the iRacing service, because of the fact that over the course of a run, over the course of the race, you've got to work these in-car tools, the anti-roll bar, both front and rear, and also that weight jacker. If you're running in traffic, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, if you're running in traffic, you use different anti-roll bar, different ARB settings compared to if you're running in clean air. You want to run in clean air for the downforce and making sure that you can be trying to pull out a gap if you want to. But if you're running in traffic, you've got to work those settings, those in-car tools, so hard, and you've got to make sure that you do it in the right time. Otherwise, either A, you'll push up in turn number 1, or B, you're going to loop it around at turn number 3.
You know, I think that's what makes iRacing so similar to actual real-life racing here in the IndyCar program. I mean, we've talked to a lot of the drivers in the NTT IndyCar series who have talked about the fact that they're getting used to the fact they don't have the feel of the G's. They don't have the seat of the pants feel when the car starts to go away. They're really having to fine-tune on what they get through the wheel. You know, that the input, the wheel starts getting light when the car starts to oversteer a little bit. I love this. Of course, I've been thrown into the iRacing program, the commentary of it, learning so much more about it since we all got locked down with the COVID-19 pandemic. But I'm learning so much about the fact that these drivers so similar to the drivers in IndyCar at this Indianapolis 500. This isn't just about driving, as you said, 800 corners over 200 laps, is it? This is all about a 3.5-hour mental workout where you're continually changing your car, you're adapting it, because not only do you have to change, as you said, for every corner, whether you're in the draft or potentially in clean air, the wind can gust as well. We know at a track like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the big cathedral that it is, the wind will gust in your face from left to right, east, west, north, south, whatever it may be, and drivers are always continually adjusting what they're going to do in terms of getting that car to work. And that's another connection, just that similarity, which makes me have so much respect for the drivers here on the iRacing platform, because with these open setups, every bit of adjustment is available to them. That's what this is going to be an amazing win, whoever brings it home to victory lane.
And that's what the side by side here, looking from the rear, Brandon Traino. He's got himself about a half-second advantage right now over Michele Constantini. And Constantini's got a good job going on right now in P number 2. We're actually running board with Michele Constantini. We're on the left-hand side of your screen right now. 28 or 200 laps scored complete. And here's the thing, Aaron. We're not that far away from green flag pit stops. So all of that wax lyrical we talked about at the top of the broadcast, it's going to come to play in the next 5 laps.
Yeah, the field is strung out now. After about 15 laps, the cars do have tire fall off. That's why you want the clean air early. You're going to save your tires longer because they aren't having to work as much getting that clean air. Expect the Traino in maybe this lap, definitely within 3 laps. He's been out front for a good portion, so the pit window definitely is open here. If you were further back, I'm surprised we haven't had anybody short pit to try to undercut some of the cars in front of them. So far, not seeing anybody, no takers in the pits right now, but next few laps, definitely, the pits are going to become a very busy place.
I do apologize, by the way. The ice cream van has worked out that they can go out post-lockdown, and they can also blare their music out as loud as they possibly can. And actually, on towards pit road then, that's Brandon Traino for the first time on towards pit road, and most people around him there, Rob, stay out.
Yeah, I kind of find that surprising. Normally, the leader coming into pit lane kind of sets everything up, and people follow suit and follow him in. So in comes Brandon Traino, first driver into pit lane. Aaron, are you surprised? Lap number 30. Then again, he was out front. Did he potentially use up enough fuel pushing all that air?
Absolutely. With clean air, full rich, 30 laps is the hard number. If you do no conserving and you're 100% the entire run, we are looking at about 30 lap run. So that's one of the disadvantages up front. I think other drivers may be able to go 33, 34. If we go green the whole way, leading might require one more stop.
Yeah, indeed, that's it. You talked about that early. Michele Constantini now coming in. One extra lap for Constantini, the driver who is running in that second position. Got to expect that we'll see Zach Campbell come in here soon. Kevin Ellis Jr. as well. They will take over the lead now. Again, pit stops are starting. I did mention talking about the fact that the drivers who change their cars on a regular basis, of course on the iRacing platform, we're not getting wind gusts. We're not getting the same kind of weather that we would have, the changing weather throughout the day. Track will change, however, but of course, this static weather, Aaron, throughout the entire event here. Constantini, a good pit stop, 9.3 seconds. Aaron, 9.3, pretty much what we expect. Drivers really trying to make sure they fill it full of fuel.
Yeah, with a 3/4 tank, you're going to be looking at about 7.2 seconds. That's about the time of a tire change. If you run it to the full empty, you are going to be looking at that 9 to 9.5 second range.
So nice job there for, I believe, Constantini getting out in front of Traino. Again, waiting for the drivers to come in. Zach Campbell and Kevin Ellis will be the next drivers we expect down pit lane. So first run through the order in green flag pit stops. Again, the key about green flag pit stops, it's the in-lap stop itself and, of course, the out-lap as well. When you're coming back out, you're on it. You're pushing hard to get back up to speed. Here comes Zach Campbell. We knew it. Another one of the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan eSport drivers coming in to his stop. Everyone doing a good job, Aaron, so far of doing what they need to do in terms of getting the car woed up coming into pit lane.
You don't want to beat yourself on this first stop. We're not going to see the absolute aggressive sliding into the speed zone as we will later on. Everybody now being conservative, being safe, don't want to beat yourself now. But when we get to that final green flag pit stop, be expecting some near fireworks as we get right near the cones.
It's almost like thinking about here, Rob. You've got to work up to being perfect. So you don't want to mess up the first one. Again, if you do mess up the first one, that's okay because you've got the time to work it back into your regime. But you don't want to go over hot in your first pit stop. You've got to work up to that. Work out what the grip level is, work out what, how late you can brake, work out just exactly how hard you can push that limiter, and then build it up over the next 6 pit stops to come. And most drivers now are on pit road, and as a data geek myself, the next 5 laps are going to work out who's on the best and who's on the worst in this first pit stop.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about the fact that really on the first couple of stops, especially when you're starting a day like today, you're going to have 7 stops over this 200-lap race. You know what? Get comfortable with rolling into pit lane, who's going to be around you potentially, who the drivers you could be pitting with. You've got, like you said, you can make a mistake early and then make that up. You make a mistake late, and that's not going to work. Phil Kraus now into pit lane in that number 7 machine, but we did have a good little look at the battle up front as well. Those, not so much up front yet when they cycle back out, but Traino and Constantini battling it out again.
And the thing is, for Brandon Traino, he's got himself right now on not much of anything at all, actually. They go side by side in towards turn number 1. Actually, no, I take that back. Zach Campbell gets himself past Kevin Ellis Jr. in towards turn number 1. So there's a lot of battling going on here. P2, P3, P4 on track right now. And just having a look at the stops here, Kevin Ellis Jr. had a 9.1 second pit stop. He's back alongside Zach Campbell in towards turn 3, gets the job done through the short chute, now down towards turn number 4. Turn 4, of course, we've had Thomas Scheckter, J.R. Hildebrand crash here in years gone past, Aaron. But again, side by side. And these tyres, they work best in the early stages of a run. And this is why Zach Campbell is being so aggressive right now. You've got to remember as well, Johan Half is also there in the mix, and P number 5.
You got to get the positions while your car is maneuverable, making those strong moves down the straightaway, diving it to the inside, entering the corner low. You really can't do that on lap 30. Well, you can, but you're going to wash up to the car on the outside. So right now you can pass on the inside, pass on the outside. With each lap, it gets harder and harder. So right now you got to get the positions. And of this 3-car train, you want to be out front to get that clean air to save the tires later on. That's what we're going to see, just draft pass after draft pass on the straightaway. Each driver's hoping the other car is going to fall off sooner, and they'll be able to break away with clean air.
Meanwhile, Aaron, the unluckiest driver in the history of IndyCar has had bad luck strike once again. That is Joshua Chin, who over the years, you and me commentating on IndyCar, we've seen him so many times fall victim to things that is none of his own doing. It's happened here today, technical issues. Joshua Chin, your first retiree from the 2020 iRacing Indy 500.
He was running P8. He was either 1 or 2 laps away from his pit stop. He had gone longer than the leaders. He was in an amazing position, and once again, the curse of Indy strikes down upon him. When this track, sometimes this track determines who it wants to win, and for some reason, Chin, the Brickyard does not look fondly upon Joshua Chin, which Joshua Chin, one of the cleanest racers you can race against, so just sad to see his bad luck continue.
One of my favorite Indy 500 opens of all time, Rob, is in 2011, which we never realized was going to be Dan Weldon's last Indy 500 victory. But the opening, and again, I always say ESPN did the best openings of any broadcast company of all time. But you know what? They reiterated a fact that is key. This track has a say in who wins this race. Be it real or be it virtual, the track always will have its own say. We talk about Lady Luck. For Chin, it hasn't worked out right now, but one thing that is working out is Michele Constantini, who's leading for the moment over Brandon Traynor, but Traynor goes down to the inside.
Yeah, the Total machine back to the inside there. I love the fact these two drivers going back and forth. But to counterpoint to a certain extent, not even counterpoint, to agree with you, I'll tell you about it, Will. You talk to every one of these drivers, and of course, you know, I'm on pit lane with IndyCar Radio for these races here. The last 4 events, I've been part of the 500 crew, which has been an honor. Every one of these drivers will tell you that's like that it's that little bit that they know that maybe this race isn't theirs. You know, they're doing all the strategy. They can do the best they can. They can hit the strategy perfect. Their pit stops can be perfect. But as you said, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway oftentimes picks who's going to be able to win the race, and she's not always nice to everybody. And that's one of the things the drivers count solace on when they're done. If they didn't get the race win, they're like, it was just, she didn't pick me today. And that's something they always say. It's an interesting deal. Joshua Chin, of course, as we said, he had the fastest lap before the pit stops. He had gone a couple laps later. He was doing everything he needed to do, but again, it just didn't work out for him today.
Jonathan Goke has the fastest lap of the day so far, and he is currently running in P number 13 right now. So he's just been passed by Brandon Lichtenberg. And again, actually, we've got to be honest here, Aaron. Brandon Lichtenberg and Jonathan Goke have had issues over the years. You and I, we've got all the history about these sim racing teams. But Jonathan Goke is one of those drivers who could win the race here today. He's got himself these lovely purple colors, of course, representing him, Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings on his car. He's been around basically since I've been around in iRacing, since 2011. He's actually a part of the team that I was a part of in 2011. And he, of course, is a U.S. Air Force veteran. He's been working for the US Air Force for so many years right now, and he's one of these drivers that you can never discount in a big race like this.
He was last week in the fixed Indy 500. He might have been Mr. Excitement that race. He was making passes. We were just astounded that he was able to clear it. Eventually, luck ran out. He found the wall. I raced with him earlier this week and asked him if he had a chance, and he said, oh yeah. So he's going to need a yellow, I think, to move up through the field. But when it comes to slicing and dicing in traffic, he's about as precise as he can, as anyone. And he's also one of the toughest drivers to pass when he's on the defense.
We're on board of him right now in that beautiful on board. And again, of course, Rob, this is the first year that we've got the kind of the area shield on iRacing. Came to us a few weeks ago, of course, with our partnerships with NBC, getting ourselves the most up-to-date build and iRacing models for these cars. But the area shield, you know, many people slate it, but looking on board, yes, it might distract a little bit of your front-on vision, but actually, it's, in my opinion, better than the Halo.
Yeah, in speaking, Will, with the IndyCar drivers in some of the races that they've done, they're really actually enjoying the opportunity to be able to sample the view through all the iRacing that they've been able to do. And indeed, yeah, it's right there. But I think for the most part, drivers say they like it a lot. They're dealing, of course, with the cooling issues. That's something that we'll have to do when we go racing. It could be interesting if we do the Indianapolis 500 in August. It's going to be extremely warm. Yeah, it's normally warm in May as well, but it'll be really hot in August in Indiana. So cooling is going to be one thing they'll work on throughout the time after we go back racing again. But I think visually, it's solid for those in the cockpit. And, of course, the level of the safety, heads and tails, I believe, above the Halo as well.
We got ourselves a chance to talk to Josh Chin. Josh, Indy 500 just never worked for you, apart from that one time.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened. Pulled out of the pit box, and a minute later it was gone. It sucks. We put a lot of work in last night to get the race set up a lot better from last night's race, and I think we got something we can contend with. It's not showing right now with some of the separation going on in the pack, but Jeff, Liam, Tanner, Austin, Andreas, all those guys will have a pretty good shot by the end of this.
45 laps green so far. How does that impact on the way that you think about strategy, you think about the way that you work this race?
From the start, we knew if it went green, we were just going to try and hit countback numbers, and that's kind of the way it's playing out. I think up front, you'll see those guys kind of cycle out who they have do 29 laps, and they're going to try and hit their countback number with that whole pack. I don't know how it's going to work out in the second pack, but it might be something similar to that, where Chris will lead one time, then Jeff will lead one time, Liam will lead one time, Tanner will lead one time, and they'll keep cycling through to get the fuel mileage. Well, thanks, Josh. Before you let you go, any shout-outs? Yeah, I got to give a shout-out to Wyatt Gooden and SimShock for coming on board, Mark Cohn, the DMLC Racing Channel, and Craig Setup Shop, everyone at Team Chimera, Team Talent for supporting. Hopefully come back from this next year and don't have the same problem. Well, thank you very much, Josh Chin. And another thing punched that, Aaron, in our Racesport TV unofficial bingo, the countback. We haven't actually talked about the countback yet, but it's one thing that you and I talk about so often in these big iRacing Indy 500 events. And again, these drivers, it is like an endurance race. In endurance racing, you run against a clock. In this race, you're running against 200 laps, and actually what you want to make sure is that you pit at the last possible moment to make sure you have the little amount of fuel possible to get to the checkered flag.
And if we are counting back, let's take the Trano, the previous run. It's lap 30. So he ran 30 laps, so we look at lap 170, 140, 110, 80, 50. So if you're working backwards, that window for that strategy would actually open at lap 50. Now, you want to go further into that, as you mentioned, because if you're filling it all the time, all the way to the brim, you are going to have those 9.2, 9.5 second pit stops. So if you can figure out, okay, 170 is for a full fuel load, but if we can go to lap 175, 180, and somewhere along the way, short fill, save 2 or 3 seconds, that right there could be the difference to breaking the draft. So many different strategies on what you want to do. And of course, we do have other drivers that are maybe trying to eliminate one whole pit stop. Looking at the field, minus Joshua Chin out on a technical difficulty, I don't know if we've ever been quarter distance, Will, and had no retirees due to contact.
Well, I'm thinking, Rob, back to, was it a 2017 race where they went 100-something laps before they had their first caution of the day? Of course, and afterwards they had a bunch of cautions, one after the other. But this is a race where if you do go green, the race gets a green feel to it. Because the field gets more spread out, it means that you're less likely to have an incident.
And I think even more than that as well, it really does change the fuel strategy the longer you go for a number of the drivers, because if you do lose a group, let's say that you were at the tail of a group, of course riding on board with one of our cars here now, let's say you lose that group and all of a sudden you find yourself all by yourself pushing all that air, that changes your strategy as well. And I loved hearing the input from Joshua Chin talking about that count back. It's so crucial. But that count back, Aaron, always changes. You and I have discussed it. You kind of brought me up to speed on a lot of stuff with all the experience you've had with these iRacing Indianapolis 500 events. Things can constantly change depending on where a driver finds himself on the racetrack. You could pit with somebody, not have a great pit stop, all of a sudden lose that big group, and all that strategy you had rolling in kind of goes out the window.
And that's why I said you have to be perfect in your strategy. You have to somehow see the future and know who's going to have issues and where you're going to slot out of your pit. So the strategy, sometimes you have to go on a wish and a prayer, but if you want to win this race, sometimes that's what it's going to take, especially right now if you are running 20th through 32nd. Looking at our timing, last place on the lead lap, 30.4 seconds. Very rarely do we talk about lap traffic here. If people are trying to save fuel and eliminate one stop, well, there comes a point in time where saving is going to be slower than taking that one stop. So we'll have to see if the, let's say, P28 through 32 moves the wick up, starts burning a little bit of fuel, because going a lap down at this stage on a green run, ooh, you do not want to do that.
I'll tell you what, I run this race in 2012 and I was the driver that went a lap down, and it is so scary, Rob, to be a car a lap down working through traffic who's maybe 10 miles an hour faster, because if your car isn't handling perfectly, then you basically are on tenterhooks the entire way around the racetrack. And if you get someone then coming up behind you, oh, we got a car turned around down the back of the straight, and that is Adam Blocker by the looks of it, and we stay green for the time being. Adam Blocker lost it on the exit of turn number 2, but we stay green. Let's get ourselves a replay, if we can, of Adam Blocker looping it around on the exit of turn number 2. Here we are, on board with him right now. I call that, he went a little bit too far. I don't know if he got contact or anything there, Rob, but it looks as though from the first part, he just lost himself, went too far below that yellow, white line through turn number 2. Here's a replay. Actually, it does look as though he might have got turned around a little bit there.
Yeah, it looks to me, Will, I think you're right, kind of a double incident. We saw this, Aaron, a lot last weekend in the fixed racing Indy 500, where a number of drivers were really trying to pinch down on the exit of turn number 2 and drop the left front Firestone down onto the apron, onto the actual rumble on the exit, and the car looped around. We saw, I want to say, at least 4 or 5 different incidents like that. Blocker did drop it around, and to his credit, however, though, was able to save the car, then came back up with the driver behind him, just not able to clear him enough to driver's right. A little bit of contact to send him around, and surprisingly able to continue, no yellow. And Aaron, I was
and clip the flat part that sort of looks like a curb. It really isn't. Back in '94 they were rumble strips, but if you go that far low and touch that will upset the car and bring the rear around. He was going through the rest of the turn trying to gather it, and when you're doing 220 miles an hour behind that, it's very hard to check up, and Blocker got turned. I don't see any damage on that car. The car that turned him, though, may have some front wing damage, and that will add 5 seconds to his next stop.
You know what, Aaron? Normally, most people will say that turn 1 or turn 3 are the hardest. Actually, I think turn 3 is easy. Turn 1, yeah, it's tough, especially in the shadows. Turn 2, because of the speed that you're carrying in, because of the fact the car's unsettled, I always say turn 2 is the hardest corner on this racetrack.
Oh, definitely. Turn 2, it's when you do it right, it's the easiest, but it has the lowest margin of error. I remember 3 or 4 years ago, well, we saw so many cars snap oversteer out of there during this race. We would do about 10 laps, and then we just counted down to, okay, this is a lap, somebody's losing the rear. So turn 2, very fickle. The fast line is right up against that gray, and get a little too low as Blocker did, and you are going to be going for a ride. Thankfully, he's still in this race. No retirees yet due to contact. 32 cars still on the lead lap.
Looking at the 10th place driver, Tanner Watkins, in the number 29 car. And again, Aaron, Tanner Watkins has got a very unique history at this racetrack on the Indianapolis 500. Of course, last year he provided us with the basically the cheats guide, the how to work out who's done what at the Indianapolis 500 over the years. He's of course brought us the Indy 500 that he's done over the last couple of years as well. Looking to do one of those again in 2020. Tanner Watkins from Indiana as well. He's a journalist running in the top split, P number 10 right now. He has got to be so happy that P10. He's only just about half a second back from Liam Quinn right now to knock on the door, P number 9.
That document you mentioned, if you are listening and you're a member of iRacing, go to the IR18 forum and look at this document. It is the essence of information overload. A lot of work, a lot of heart went into it, and a lot of information that you think, well, how I didn't think of that. So lots of information you can spend all afternoon and still want more reading that. He's running P10, 6/10ths behind Liam Quinn. He's in the good by Chad Simpson by about 1.3. Very good position right now. It's going to be hard to catch that speed up if we stay green, and there's a lot of ifs right now. A lot of drivers mid-pack just hoping for a yellow. When their spotters said there's trouble in 2, everybody's ears perked up and went, yes! And then there was no yellow, and they all got sad. But
Travis back towards pit road.
Watkins running 10th. Good position right now. Is he going to move up? We're in that spot where tires are going to fall off, and we are entering the pit window, I believe.
Yeah, Travis back on towards pit road for the second time here, Rob.
Yeah, I like to see this, guys. This is another green flag pit stop. It'll be interesting to see whether or not we're able to go green to checker, and that would really change the strategy. I think it actually probably would put even more pressure on the guys to hit every fuel mark, every stop, every corner. Trano back out here once again. Good running thus far for the driver in the RLLR Esport machine. Again, Kevin Ellis will take over the lead now. Zach Campbell into second. Exactly what we saw earlier on. Drivers coming in and cycling. But Aaron Trano, the first driver to pit, right at the front of the pit window on the opening stop. First driver to pit here as well, essentially out of the lead of stop number 2.
Yeah, and Constantini, I believe, came in with him and beat him out. So perhaps Constantini short filled just a little bit. I do think one of these stops you can short fill to make it on the 30-lap thing. You only have to run 20 laps on one of these segments. Which segment will that be? Well, that's going to be dictated on where you are on track. And if Constantini felt that he could break away if he had the clean air, we really haven't talked about it over the course of the week, but a lot of these drivers are just qualifying all week long and not building a race set. They are super fast with clean air. You get behind a car, though, they're not going to be as strong. So maybe this was Constantini's 20-lap run.
Yeah, and this will be interesting as well, because the strategy, the way it works here, Rob, is that you can kind of deviate from that strategy a little bit, but you've always got to remember, you've got to make sure that you're on the right tires and the right fuel at the right time. For Constantini, he's taking a risk here, and if a caution comes out about now, he'll be okay, but if a caution comes out in 15 laps time, he's going to really, really struggle.
Indeed, we saw some of that in the fixed race where drivers got caught out by the time they stopped, and they were on much more used tires. Zach Campbell now coming into pit lane from the lead, and the other Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing Esport entry. Campbell in that number 2 hits his marks. He'll try to get himself a solid pit stop here as well. Does he indeed try to go for the short fill, or does he do a full stop? It'll be a 9.9 second stop for Zach Campbell. A little longer, probably not quite into the box as quickly as he possibly could. Full of fuel, though, and he'll head back out onto the racetrack with the Total machine.
Yep, so Zach Campbell in that Total number 2 car back out on track. Look at that, Kevin Ellis Jr. on towards pit road as well right now.
A lot of drivers coming out around him, a lot of drivers coming in just behind him as well. So Kevin Ellis Jr. and the Apex Racing i5G broken aero car going to come into his pit stops. And we're just looking, and he's perfectly in. We've seen so many times here, Rob, drivers overshooting their pit stall, but actually, so far, we've not seen many major issues on pit road.
Tremendous stop for Kelvin Ellis Jr., 9.5 seconds. He'll get a couple of tenths there on the drivers who have come in. Again, are you 9.3? Are you 9.2? We don't talk a lot about that in the IndyCar radio broadcast, about how much of a difference that is. You know, a guy will come in, it'll be an 8.7 stop, and, you know, it's a cool stop, and then the guy comes in as a 7.3. You're talking a second and a half you could gain on pit lane. Crew does a great job. You hit your marks. You're right on the button coming in, getting down to pit lane speed. A good stop can change an entire race, and I think big time here, especially when we're looking now into our second green flag stop. If we indeed are able to go all the way to the checkered flag, the guys that are good to go and really nail the stops absolutely perfectly, they could find themselves 10, 11, 12 seconds ahead at the end, not even counting fuel strategy.
I'm just thinking back here, Aaron. I think it's 2 hours, 17 minutes. It's the fastest ever iRacing Indy 500 we've ever had. That was with 3 cautions back in 2015. But right now, this race has got a green flag feel to it. Michele Constantini up into P number 4, just overtaking some drivers, but it is actually going to be the driver of Jeff Drake's in 31st position, actually. I'll take one back. It is Philip Kraus, who's on pit road right now, who was leading, and everything's going to change all over again. And Constantini now back to the race lead.
Yeah, while we were cycling through, Scott McLaughlin can add his name to the list of lap leaders of our iRacing Indy 500. One thing I'd like to mention, exiting the pits here, there is perhaps the nastiest bump in IndyCar racing right out of the pits. Under yellow, it's not that big of a deal. Under green, though, if you hit that bump in the middle of a gear shift, you will lose the rear. So while we're focusing on pit entry, you can make up a lot of time here on pit exit by, 1, short shifting before you get to that bump, but 2, you'll see some of the drivers drift up in between the short, or in the short chute in 1 and 2 to sort of arc the pit exit lane in turn 2. You have to exit on the pit access road, which is inside of the grass, but in between 1 and 2, you can run up onto the oval somewhat and get a nice angle through turn 2.
Yeah, the iRacing rules are basically you can't impede another driver when you come out of pit road, but you can arc it out if you want to get yourself a faster run. And it saves you about half a second, we think, Rob, over the course of that pit exit by going up onto the track and then diamonding back into the short chute between turn number 2. And that can help you quite a lot if you can do it. But if you come into pit road and come out in a lot of traffic, you just can't do that.
Yeah, I find the idiosyncrasies of iRacing to be so intriguing because obviously you have to figure out exactly all the little places that you can gain just those extra couple of hundredths of a second. And I think we're talking about the fact that we've gone green for 69 laps so far. I want to say that speaks volumes to the quality of the drivers that have been able to qualify in. You know, we talked about it, Aaron, from the very beginning. The 33 drivers simply getting into this event, qualifying to be part of this race, was an accomplishment in and of itself. Well, that lines up this incredible grid of 33 drivers. You know, a guy like me who's just jumped into iRacing the last couple of weeks, you know, the races I'm in, it's a battle, right? There's constant chaos. But what we're seeing here right now is 33 drivers who all respect each other, talented wheelmen from front to back. We're not seeing any issues because these guys aren't making any low-risk moves. They're understanding the strategy. Everybody racing clean. I'm super impressed right now.
2 former iRacing Indy 500 champions, sorry Aaron, are battling it out for P number 2 on track right now. Kevin Ellis Jr. and Brandon Traynor. Kevin Ellis Jr. won this race a couple of years back. Brandon Traynor won this race 1 year ago. They go side by side and once again in towards turn number 1. Traynor down to the inside, gets that pass complete. And again, these are 2 former Indy 500 champions right now here, Aaron, who are trying to get that 4.4 second gap from Michele Constantini, who had a much shorter pit stop that last time around, but worked that pit strategy out to be perfect. And the more that Traynor and Kevin Les Jr. fight with each other, the more that gap might start to increase.
I think this was a great strategy move by Constantini because we are now working lap traffic. So Treno and Ellis, whoever settles down into second when this battle's over, they're still going to be in traffic. Being the first car, lappers are usually very respectful to the leader. And P2, good luck. That's just the way lappers seem to be. They will roll over for the leader. Everyone else, it's going to be a fight to get around. So Constantini, that was great timing to work the lap traffic without any pressure. He now can work this traffic on his own time. He's got the time in the bank to do so. So if you get a mid or low percentage move, he doesn't have to do it. He's not being pressured from behind. Whereas Ellis Jr. and Treno, they're in a battle and having to overtake lap traffic. So great call by Constantini if he did short fill. If he did, we'll see him in about 8 to 10 laps. We'll see if he pits in that 80 to 85 bracket. We will know exactly what he did.
I want to talk about Adam Blocker as well. Of course, here came second place in the iRacing Indy 500 last year around. Running in P number 24 right now here, Rob. And he's one of these drivers that has kind of been, I don't want to say meh, but just biding his time. He's got himself Ray Kingsbury just ahead of him. He's got himself Philip Kraus just behind him. In fact, Block has just lost that position to Philip Kraus as Kraus now try to make the move 2-1 over Ray Kingsbury. But Adam Blocker, former second place in the 2019 iRacing Indy 500, it looks as though he's playing the long haul game right now.
Yeah, it seems like a strategy obviously playing out for him, and he's kind of stuck with it, which I like to see. He, of course, the driver who had that tremendous save coming out of turn number 2, having dropped the left front down onto the rumble strip on the inside of the racetrack, trying to skate a little bit more there and getting tagged from behind, spun around. We did not get the yellow. He was able to continue. He was much further up the order, of course. Now finds himself slotted into 23rd, as we said, but a long game, no doubt, happening here. I like the fact that strategy is really going to play an incredible role. We're not getting that, side-by-side, 3 wide, all the hardcore passes into turn 1, into turn 3 like we saw in the fixed setup race. This one more forming into one of those really kind of traditional, iconic strategy runs here at the 500 where you have to play everything absolutely correctly. And then, as Aaron said from the very top of the broadcast, it'll come down from where you are 170 laps into the end.
Also looking at Chris Cahill in the number 24 car for Snake Pit Racing. He's one of those drivers who he's been part of iRacing for as long as I've been. And he's right now battling it out with Scott McLaughlin for P number 17, 18 on track. Scott McLaughlin, of course, looking to try and get his virtual experience, maybe to give himself a prelude to what he has in store over at the end of summer when racing might resume, as well as the iRacing Indy 500, not iRacing Indy 500, the actual Indy 500. But Chris Cahill right now, running in P number 17, is one of those kind of old stalwarts we don't often talk about, but he just goes down to the inside of that is Andreas Eek and gets himself up to P16, for the moment at least.
Cahill, I think his eyes were wide open there as Eek just about scraped the wall in one. That's going to allow McLaughlin to go to the inside. Not going to be able to clear him. Outside really is holding tough here today. Of course, the longer cars run in a place, it's going to get greasy. It's going to get slick. We have been now running 76 laps. Now Cahill's going to look to the inside, and as the track gets more slippery, expect Chris Cahill's experience to don't want to make the outside pass there. That's a very scary place to put your car. He thought wise of it. He's going to get the toe. Nice over under there. That's the way you got to pass. If we get a yellow later, look for what we just saw there a lap ago. If you attempt to make a pass and you don't clear, that's going to open yourself up to attack from behind. Right there, Cahill could not get around. Now can McLaughlin capitalize? One last thing about McLaughlin. Well, last week we had Sage Karam, Indy 500 winner, run the fixed race. And McLaughlin, he will run the Indy 500. And McLaughlin can win here. It could be a real driver sweep of our iRacing Indy 500s.
I'll say one thing, that Sage Karam once brought an event I was running back in 2018 over in Leipzig in Germany. He thought that actually I was angry at him. I wasn't. But Sage Karam has got one of these personalities here, Rob, that he adheres so much to the iRacing community, the IndyCar community. He's a hothead. Most people will agree with that. But he's also one of these drivers that he really respects this racetrack. Of course, he's not running here today, but Scotty McLaughlin, who's running in P number 16, I think he's looking to go into those same type of shoes that what Sage Karam is doing right now in Indy.
Well, I've had the fortune of commentating on Sage's races since he was a young 7 or 8 year old in cadet racing and cadet karting. And from that very beginning, he was very methodical, very focused, very driven, even as a 7, 8, 9 year old. And the way that he would manage races back then, where he would really just control the race. He would sit second, get himself to second, push the leader away, and eventually make a last lap pass for the win. He's always had that really aggressive, that really focused, I don't want to say aggression's not even the word. He's almost the precision that he would have. But when, of course, he worked his way up the ranks, quickly coming up through, of course, he was an Indy Lights champion, very young coming into IndyCar, and he had some growing up to do. He was a young guy who wanted to take on the establishment, kind of took that black sheep kind of persona for a little bit. I remember a bit of a dust-up at Iowa Speedway between he and Ed Carpenter. But when you talk about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it is a place where he has had so much ups and downs, goods and bads, but he has had a focus. He does have an absolute love for the Speedway. And of course, when you work with a guy like the folks at Dreyer Reibold as well, right? These guys believe in the sport, believe in the track, and have a love for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That just kind of comes together. Scott McLaughlin's going to have that same love. The minute he comes to what will now be a month of August, he will fall in love with this racetrack like everybody else does.
And the thing is, Rob, is that it's not until you go underneath the track, you go down that 2-lane, double aisle wide, run onto the track underneath from the start-finish straight, that you really understand what the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is all about. And I think that anyone who's never done that, when we get the chance to go back to traveling, get yourself the chance not only to go to Indy, but to actually go to the infield, because only once you actually go into the infield that you really see what the magic about IMS is all about.
And I think the next step after that, do that as well. Like you said, once you come inside, it's absolutely unbelievable. It's just, you emerge out from the tunnel. I don't care which one you do, between 1 and 2, between 3 and 4, on the exit of 4. I don't care which tunnel you come out. It's unbelievable. Then it's Indianapolis 500 Sunday morning. I always get there usually around 4:30, 5 o'clock. I want to beat the traffic coming in. I want to be there when the cannon sounds at 6 o'clock. And from that, 5 o'clock to noon, when we start getting going, the track starts coming, people start rolling in, the place just starts to come alive, and you can just feel the electricity anywhere you go. Everybody's kind of on pins and needles. The drivers are all fired up and ready to go. You can see the look on the mechanics' faces. It's exciting for sure. We're getting some action on the racetrack. We had a driver touch the wall, I think, coming out of turn out of 1.
We are indeed, and this is a battle going on as we look at the number 75, is that? No, 24 car, Chris Cahill in the 17th position. So Chris Cahill, one of those drivers you talked about earlier on, he's now just ahead of Scott McLaughlin. They're battling out still for P number 17 on track. And again, I always like to say here, Rob, that the Indy 500 is like an endurance race. Just the only difference is you do 4 corners over and over again. You've got to remember that you've got to think about the strategy, because without that, nothing's going to work.
The interesting thing, Will, is in the common thought nowadays. It's not so much that it's an endurance race. It's kind of a sprint endurance race right now. They don't really settle in anymore because the yellows we have, everybody's so hectic. But this particular race, the character of the event we have here today, it's becoming an oddity. This kind of endurance race where we're 85 laps in, we haven't had one yellow yet. The strategy that these guys have laid down and talked about, it's really coming to play. Normally they would have strategy 1, then we'll see what happens. We'll make the adjustments after the first yellow flag. Aaron, of course, doing all his calculations. The minute we get a yellow flag, we haven't had that yet. So the initial strategy coming in, they call it a sprint race, a 200-lap sprint race. This is indeed, I think you're correct, this has become more of an endurance. It really has started to play into that strategy playbook that they have rolled out from the very beginning.
And also Aaron McLaughlin and Andreas Eek on pit road for their 3rd pit stop of the day.
So they were the drivers that must have short-filled. Our leader, I said, look for him to pit around 80 to 83. He's still on track, so he might have just beat them on speed. McLaughlin and company, this may be their short fill trying to, well, they were in a very hectic battle for 17th. You really don't want to be in that hard of a battle for that position, so you got to sort of go off sequence just a little bit to maybe get out of that battle and settle in. As this run progresses, this is an extremely long run. The marbles are going to build up on the outside. That's going to make passing or being passed harder. So you want to be on the attack, and you don't want to really be fighting it out with 3 or 4 other drivers.
So let's have a look at your top 8 then. That's going to come along the bottom of your screen, because it is Brandon Trainer who is leading the way. It's Michele Constantini even who's leading the way right now over Kevin Ellis Jr. by about 0.7 of a second. Brandon Trainer runs in 3rd place, with Bjorn Harth in 4th, and Zach Campbell in 5th. Matt Pavelski in 6th place, a former iRacing Indy 500 champion. Christopher Demerit, also an iRacing Indy 500 champion in P7. Liam Quinn in P8. So, Aaron, 3 iRacing Indy 500 champions in your top 8. Brandon Trainer, Christopher Demerit, and also Matt Pavelski.
As many races as they've run, they're used to the yellow, and I know we're as announcers, we're not trying to jinx it. It's just that we are 88 laps straight green. I can't recall us seeing that. We've seen runs in the middle, but not from the start. So these drivers, if they were thinking, okay, we're going to run, then go slow, run, then go slow, they had that type of strategy in mind. They're not getting that right now. That can be frustrating when you have a car to win, but due to starting position or just taking it easy at the start, Liam Quinn, our 8th place runner, is 18 seconds behind the leader. Running 8th in the Indy 500. Many drivers would love top split being in that position. Not so. Everybody is in this race to win it. Right now, everybody's hoping it's that other driver that has that brain fade, finds the wall, spins, what have you. Everybody but probably Constantini, Ellis, and Trano are just waiting, holding their breath, hoping to hear their spotter say yellow.
And Tim Doyle, we talked about him early on here, Rob, because he came 2nd place in 2011, won in 2012, or switch that back around if I got that incorrect. But he is in P number 15 right now. He's moved himself up in this field, and that's the thing about Tim Doyle. He will just slowly, methodically work his way through the field. And actually, if he gets to the point like you've got drivers on the lead lap, on those who's falling a lap down, you've still got 20 drivers on the lead lap right now. Tim Doyle is still in a good position.
Yeah, experience always pays off, does it not? You can never count out someone that has a race win. I don't care if you qualify down the order as Tim did, further down the order significantly. He's up to 14th position right now. Of course, some drivers starting to make some changes. Now here, leader into pit lane, Aaron Likens, we expected him to come in. Here is Michele Constantini in the number 15 coming down pit lane, looking for a good stop from him. He'll roll into his box again as the leader. He had behind him Kevin Ellis Jr. was right in there as well. Here comes Constantini. Crucial run for him, that long run down the pit lane to get to his box. We'll see what happens when he cycles back out.
Pit strategy is really easy to calculate when it's every 30 laps. It's very
That's
easy.
right.
30, 60, 90. Very easy to know. Constantini obviously did not short fill the previous stop, so we can probably figure lap 120 will be his next in.
Brandon Trainer also on towards pit road here, Rob. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, and as Aaron said, it was 3 straight full fuel stops for Constantini. Brandon Traino coming in now as well in the Ray Hall Leonard Lanigan entry. I love the way this thing is playing out because it's not, I think, what any of us expected. I was expecting that Aaron would have the calculator out. He'd have to be working on strategy changes and updates and modifications throughout the race. We saw a number of yellow flags in the fixed Indy 500 that we ran last Saturday afternoon. So this is just something that I don't think we were ready for, but it really plays into all the work these guys have put in. I know that Joshua Chin probably sitting on the sidelines right now, just banging his head against the wall because as he had told us, Will, in the interview, they did some work last night on the race setup and they were extremely happy with the car they had. He had the fastest lap of the race before he had the issue with the connection. Tough one for him because this feels like a race that might have played right into Joshua Chin's hands.
And Aaron, to go back 1 year, of course, we had the Brazilian invasion, shall we say. Marco Aurelio Brazil, of course, getting himself pole position. A number of Brazilian drivers who are part of that team. Great qualifying, struggled in the race. Here today, it seems to be like you've got very close qualifying times, as we always get here in the iRacing Indy 500. Now, actually, before we go to the next point, Aaron, I will say that qualifying for the iRacing Indy 500, arguably one of the most toughest pieces of racing in iRacing, period.
I don't know how many runs I put together last week for the fixed 500, but piecing together 4 perfect laps, so difficult. And you're looking at the times. You do lap 1. Lap 1 is easy. Lap 2, okay, ran a good lap 1. You know you're going to be in the top 33. Just put 3 more together. Lap 2, you're still in the top 33. Then comes lap 3 and 4. The tires are stressed. They start to fall off just a little bit. And turn 1 on that 4th lap is the hardest turn you can attempt to do. You turn in too early, you're going to hit the wall on exit. Turn in too late, you're going to hit the wall on exit, destroying the run. So you have to be perfect 16 times, down to even less than inches. You have to be perfect, absolutely perfect, to make this top split race. You'll spend all week trying to get that run. And for the drivers that were in about the P20 33 range, or were on the outside looking in, you can't fight for race setup. You gotta get into the top 33, and you can neglect your race setup as Kevin Ellis now comes into the pits out of the lead.
Yep, so he's on towards pit road, making his 3rd pit stop of the day. And Rob, we talk about Indy and how hard it is to qualify. Of course, 1995, Penske not qualifying for the race after dominating in 1994. And it just shows that even some of the biggest teams in the history of, IndyCar racing struggled to compete. I think also to 2000, I think it was 11, when Andretti had issues getting car into the field.
Well, think about the fact as well. Look at James Hinchcliffe and Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, where he was on the front row 1 year and then doesn't qualify the next year. It's that tough to hit the mark here at this particular racetrack. It changes so much, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and if you're not bang on with the setup, you find yourself chasing maybe the wrong idea, the wrong concept down the rabbit hole. That's when you have issues. And we see drivers who have been good early on in the month, and then by the time we get to pole qualifying weekend, the entire team is struggling. It's that easy to be just a little bit off, and you just find yourself behind the 8 ball trying to catch back up.
And of course Alonso as well, not getting himself into the top 33. And that's the thing, Aaron. Indy is indiscriminate. Yes, you can buy an entry if you really want to, but you know what? Qualifying is indiscriminate.
Exactly. You can't. It's not like, say, 15 years ago where there were 33 cars, you could buy your way in. Now, you can, but unless you've got the talent and got the speed, it's going to be a whole lot of money wasted, because you're going to have to piece those 4 laps together. The scariest 4 laps any driver can do, especially if they were the last row shootout, perhaps probably the most stressful time any driver anywhere can have. The difference between waking up on race day, knowing you're going to be in the race, or perhaps talking to some disappointed sponsors, that can make or break a career.
The crazy thing about it...
Jay, you go ahead.
The crazy thing, I just wanted to add to Aaron's deal, because the crazy thing about qualifying for the Indianapolis 500, I think we all know how important equipment is, right? The team, the setup. We saw the fact that Fernando Alonso, when he ran with Andretti, was able to qualify nicely in the top 10. He doesn't make it with the new McLaren effort. So it is about equipment, but it's also about the driver as well, because that's that factor. You think last year about the fact that Kyle Kaiser and Juncos Racing, he had he was running mid-pack all week long. Everything was great for a small effort like that. He has the wreck. The team puts the car back together. Yeah, they put the setup back on the car, but it went all the way back to Kyle Kaiser again, for him to be able to suck it up and hold that right foot to the throttle for four laps. And all those corners, 16 corners, full throttle, had to believe in the car, to believe in himself, and that was the best story last year for me at the 500. Yeah, cars are important, setup's important, but there's still the human factor. So again, 100 laps to the halfway point of this event here now. 100 laps down to this 200 laps in the iRacing Indy 500. Watching drivers work their way around. Michele Constantini continuing to lead here at this point. Constantini, your leader.
And
so halfway.
Yeah, we're going to be halfway at the line. I don't think anybody would have taken a bet that we'd run the first 100 laps caution-free. So cross flags will be displayed halfway as we're going to lose another couple cars to the lead lap. Constantini taking a risk there in one, slicing lap traffic as I think Blocker does not want to go a lap down.
And also, teammates will come into play here more and more here, Rob, because we've got some teammates who are on the lead lap, some teammates who are about to go a lap down. That will be proved to be interesting as we go through this race, because teammates can help each other out even if they're not on the lead lap.
Yeah, indeed, and it's not that they're going to be doing a complete hardcore block job, but you can always make it a little bit tougher for someone to pass you. Maybe you don't quite move over. Maybe you do a little bit of a defensive move into a corner, make them go to the outside. We're seeing a lot of dicing back and forth here. This is something we haven't seen yet. This kind of puts up the potential. Do we get some contact here pretty soon? Drivers starting to get a little more aggressive. We're into the second half of this race now. Still no yellow. We've gone green for 102 laps thus far. Amazing this so far here.
And also, it's one of the longest green flag runs we've ever had in the iRacing Indy 500. 102 green flag laps from the start of this race. Score complete, Aaron. And I don't want to jinx it. Knocking on wood right now, because this is an amazing motor race.
It is, and one thing we haven't seen is the battle with lap traffic in the past. Constantini, it took him 3 laps to get around Adam Blocker, and Blocker almost unlapped himself, as did Adam Crane. We'll see now, can Kraus and Blocker, will Blocker come back on the leader? Yes, he will. This is something we have not seen. Lappers battling to stay on the tail end of the lead lap. This is very stressful for Constantini right now.
And you got to remember as well, of course, Rob, is that blue flags are advisory here in this race. So you do not have to move over for the driver who's ahead of you. It's responsibility of the passing driver to execute and make a safe pass. So if you are about to go a lap down, all you need to do is make sure that you do not overly impede the driver ahead of you. But if you can maintain that pace, and I've done it before in my iRacing career, game on, race on.
That's it. But again, it's all about respect. Here goes Blocker again down to the inside, side by side to number 3. High up into the gray area goes your leader, Constantini. He'll slot back down again. Indeed, Aaron, Constantini's, I gotta think, furious right now. At the very least, just nervous that he's going to make a mistake, or somebody's going to make a mistake. He'll go back down to the inside of turn number 1. But he is dicing harder than he has all day long with a lap car at this point.
And this is slowing him up about 0.2 a lap. Kevin Ellis is now reeling in this group, and he's over half a second faster. So for Constantini, who now he is going to shake the draft, he has had enough of this. That shake has allowed Kraus to try to go to the outside of Blocker. This might have been exactly what Constantini needed, as Kraus now...
Day, over 50% of the race distance is done, and it's Brandon Lichtenberg with a broken aero. i5G and Apex Racing Team car out of the race. Let's get ourselves a replay, see what happened to him there. Replay up now on your screen, down through turn number 3. Oh! Hard into the wall on the exit of turn number 4. Actually, that's the exit of turn number 2 by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's going to be on a 2, Will. You got that straight. He just tried to get the car to the outside. You can see on board with Lichtenberg here now, trying to run the high side of the racetrack up in the gray. Got the forward momentum, but there really just wasn't any room for him there. That was just, I think, 109 laps trying to get aggressive, as I said. Tried to go to the outside of the driver he had a run on, and it just did not play out at all. First yellow flag of the day.
So strategy-wise, Aaron, this means everything is out of the window, because most drivers are thinking it's coming towards pit road in 10 laps time. They still need to make 4 more pit stops. 3 more pit stops at the very least. Actually, it will be 4 more pit stops where things stand.
After the stop, Will, we're going to be looking at 140 and 170. So this is now a two-stop strategy to the end, barring any yellows and wanting fresh tires. So it's going to be hard right now if we go green to the end. Fuel saving is not needed. You're not going to gain anything. So it's going to be a mad dash now. Very lucky for the leaders to be heads up on that yellow to avoid the wrecking car of Brendan there. But strategy now, it is just full rich, run full tilt.
And P1, 2, 3 on towards pit road here, Rob. Some drivers are not going to stay out here as lap down cars look as though they are all, of course, they've got to stay out. But most lead lap cars look as though they have all come on towards pit road. Your top 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 drivers have all come on towards the lane.
Yeah, indeed, if you're further back, you stay out, right? Because we know that yellows breed yellows. Once we get back to it here, everyone's going to have fresh rubber. That'll make things interesting because, as Aaron had said, when we get longer into these 30-lap runs, drivers having to get more into single file. You're not able to make that move to the inside or outside. Well, I got a feeling that the first 5 or 6 laps, when we go back to green, are going to be unbelievably hectic. Those potentially have stayed out, got the wave around, will get an opportunity to get their lap back and get back into the fight. The first half of this race was absolutely intriguing. Such a great storyline for us to follow with the simple fact that we've gone so long from green into our first yellow. Now I think we press the reset button. I got to think this is going to be a new chapter. Everybody's got to reset their brains as well. Again, guys that were maybe back 8th, 9th, and 10th, Will, what do you think? Do they start getting aggressive, trying to get themselves up in the lead pack?
Not yet. If you're actually going to be a driver who's a lap down, the key thing is that you want to see another caution in the next 10 laps, because that way you get back onto strategy. So those drivers who's going to come in a moment's time, who are a lap down, who that pit window will open for them now, they will basically want to make sure that there's going to be a caution here, Rob, in the next 10 laps time. Otherwise, their day's going to go from bad to worse.
Well, again, I just said, when you're a lap down or even at the very, very tail of the lead lap, sooner or later you got to roll the dice because you want to win here. I think Aaron said it earlier, no one comes here to finish second, third, or fourth. You come here to win. And we know that everybody that was able to qualify into this event with the speed capable of winning should the strategy and kind of the ebb and flow of the race go their way. So, I don't know. For me, I think I'd be getting aggressive early. I'll bow to you and your experience, Will. It seems to me that you got to be up front here. I know that you guys are talking about the fact that you might want to wait down a little bit, but I got to feel some of these guys are going to get aggressive here.
Yeah. Very quickly, by the way, say thank you to Verizon and to Team Penske for allowing us to bring iRacing into many people's homes this past Tuesday as a part of Verizon Pay It Forward Live, which supports local businesses across the United States of America. Elio Castroneves gave us time to command early on here today, and that's a part of the work that we're doing with Penske and with Verizon for Pay It Forward Live. You know what, Aaron? We have the highest viewed broadcast of all of that campaign, beating out Rappers, One Republic, and even Alicia Keys.
Yeah, how awesome of Verizon to put that on. How even more awesome that the sim community and people maybe not really initiated with sim racing to be really brought into the fold to watch just how cool this is. Awesome for Verizon to do that, especially with that Pay It Forward, helping small businesses in this very difficult time. Just awesome. Kudos to you as well for broadcasting that well, but even more so for Verizon for doing such an amazing thing. And this has got to be good for iRacing and sim racing moving forward, for so many people to be brought into it, but more so for the money that is being donated to small businesses.
Indeed, so of course we couldn't do it without Hugo Luis. He's also working behind the scenes here today. It's the first race, Aaron, in 5 years that I haven't commentated and directed an iRacing Indy 500, but I will say the green flag's back in the air. We are back to green flag racing. Michele Constantini leads away as they come down towards turn number 1.
Tremendous start for Constantini, Will. He gets that good little jump out of turn 1 and 2, avoiding any kind of incident which could have happened in one. We've seen that many, many times before. Drivers getting very aggressive. Opening laps, though, again, drivers locked together. Here we go now. Finally, we're going too wide again. I expected this early. We'll make a move coming down the back straightaway once again. Move for the lead into turn number 3. Move Constantini back a spot. Treno now goes back to P1.
So Treno back to the race lead then here with 113 laps of this race. Scored complete, Aaron, but it's still mighty close. Constantini and Treno side by side in towards 1.
I think this is the race we were really expecting. Very tight through 1. Keep it low. Almost contact for P6, 7, 8. But this is the race that we all were expecting. It is just an all-out dogfight. To have a chance at this race, I think you got to be in the top 3. We have not seen anybody else really besides Ellis, Treno, and Constantini in the top 3. Will anybody fourth on back be able to crack into that top 3 spot?
And Rob, right now, you've got yourselves everyone inside of your top, I'm going to say 18 drivers right now, all in this lead pack. And one driver I want to keep an eye on is Jonathan Goat, because he's been so quick here at Indy over the years. And right now, that Broken Arrow, actually not Broken Arrow, I can't say that because otherwise he will absolutely murder me. But Jonathan Goat in that Spark VR LM car, last lap motorsports car, running in P number 7, just behind Matt Pavelski's side by side into turn number 3.
Wow, Gok, who started deeper in the field, working his way up to P7, make that P6 now in the order as he is slicing his way forward now. I knew that a couple drivers would get aggressive. Gok's the one. Let's go all the way from the outside of the racetrack, inside the racetrack, right up against the wall across the yard of bricks. Jonathan Gok working his way up to potentially P5 right now. Back into turn number 1, side by side, further back. This is the action we were looking for here. How long will it last in the fresh Firestones? When will they start to lose the grip and have to settle back into single file order? Right now, though, we're getting treated to some great 2-wide action. Further back, Nick, it's 3 wide coming down the back straightaway.
Oh my word, they are getting 3 wide towards turn number 3, and they somehow managed to keep it going here, Aaron. This is mighty close. You're almost thinking it's the last 10 laps of the race, but no, we still got ourselves 82 laps to go.
What set that off, this has been about a lap and a half now. 2 cars that were hoping for a yellow had to pit when they got swallowed up by the leaders. That backed everybody up. That's what has spurned this mid-pack feeding frenzy for positions. And you got to go right now. Right now, this is about a 15-lap sprint before the tires really fall off and you can't make such bold moves. That's why this mid-pack, I'm surprised we have not seen another yellow.
We are looking at your battle out front. In fact, we're going to go on board with, I believe that is Michele Constantini right now, who runs himself in that race lead. He's got himself Brandon Treno, who is last year's winner of the iRacing Indianapolis 500, just behind him. And that gap is only a couple of tenths of a second. Third place, Kevin Ellis Jr., a former iRacing Indy 500 champion. Matt Pavelski, Jonathan Goat, Christopher Demerit, Austin Epstein are all in the mix as well. This is one of the most stacked top 10s, Aaron, we have seen in a very, very long time. And side by side going on right now, this is between Johan Harf and also Matt Pavelski, but also a little bit further forward between Kevin Ellis Jr. and also Zach Campbell.
This is almost you can call this almost a tournament of champions right now in the top 10. Usually we see a couple drivers that might just dabble in IndyCar once a year, but 10 full-time regulars in the series all battling it out, which means these drivers will know each other's tendencies. Will they lag back? Will they attack? Where is their favorite spot? So a scouting report right now on the top 10, well, all the drivers know each other's tendencies.
And the thing is here, Rob, is that all these drivers, they do not look as though they're giving an inch on track right now, but everyone is being so respectful of the other drivers around him. Yes, we've done 120 laps with 1 caution, but actually, this is actually one of the fastest races we've seen in iRacing Indy 500 history if they continue to keep it together. We're going to go on board with him right now in that number 11 car, and he is just behind Matt Pavelski. Of course, Pavelski has won an iRacing Indianapolis 500 in that Broken Arrow i5G Apex Racing Team car. Jonathan Goke has not got a lot of love for that Broken Arrow team, and he would love to get past them.
Watching Gokes and his different entry into turn number 3. Let's see if he does it in turn 1 as well. He does. A little bit higher entry into that corner, maybe taking it easy on the tires just a little bit. One thing we didn't mention, actually, Alexander Rossi did a piece of content on social media, which is really insightful, talking about the fact of how the opening laps are here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And Aaron, you talked about the different corners. Well, you have to approach the corners much differently. Of course, when you're coming down the straightaway, you've taken a lot of the pressure off the tires. They're allowed to cool down significantly. So rolling through turns number 1 and turn number 3, the tires, of course, have cooled down a bit. Through the short shoot, however, that force has built up through turn number 1 and 3 and continues to be high going into 2 and 4. So you're not going to get quite the same amount of grip in turn 4. And that's why we sometimes see drivers have trouble in those 2 particular corners. Very different parts of this racetrack, but I like how Goke is a little higher. Oh, contact! Drivers together coming on turn number 2. One driver on his head.
Second caution of the day.
Demerit.
And it's Christopher Demerit.
Yeah, got aggressive, Will. He tried to get to the outside coming out of turn number 2, similar to what we saw before. Let's get this replay. It looked to me like he was just getting aggressive, trying to get a good run out of the corner, and just ran out of room, I think, coming out of turn number 2.
So this will be interesting in terms of strategy. We're looking at the replay right now. Christopher Demerit through turn number 1 and 2. And up over his roof right there. Drivers scattering to avoid him. Demerit down, and it's going to be out of this race. And my word, that is a wicked crash from Christopher Demerit. I'm just going to have a look again on board of him. In towards turn number 1. He's fine through 1. Then through turn number 2. He's going to be alongside the number 11 car coming in towards turn number 2. And then that is Jonathan Goke, actually. We talked about him a moment ago there, Aaron. And Demerit out of the race.
It looks like Goke lost the front end about halfway through the corner. And when you get a car to your outside, that does affect your handling just a little bit. So now not only do you have the dirty air from the cars in front, you have a disturbance on the side. So Goke slipped up a little bit. At the same time, though, an outside pass at Indy, very scary place. I don't know if I would have put myself in that position with 77, 78 laps to go. So Goke did slip up, but at the same time, you really want to be going to the outside of a car in a pack.
Rob, it looks like everyone's coming in. If you're outside the top 10, this is where you take the risk.
I agree with you on that. This is the opportunity now to potentially risk it, see what happens here, as we do have still significant, as you said, probably this stop and maybe one more, I think. Will we get to 23? Maybe still two stops. Yeah, still 2 more stops. It'll be a short stop at the very end. I just want to add to the end there for Jonathan Goke, and I think Aaron hit it on the head. We'll get back to pit stops in a second. Jonathan Goke, I don't think that was really his fault. He rolled out of the corner a little bit there, right? I don't know whether it was his fault or not. Aaron?
We had contact in the pits. Adam Crane got turned, and his car has a lot of front end damage. He was back in the field, but you hate to see contact in the pits. We'll see if it was a car coming out that might have also one of our leaders maybe got him coming out of his pit stall.
This pit road actually is narrower than you think it is, Rob. And also, of course, the pit road itself is asphalt. The pit lane where drivers stop is concrete.
Yeah, we've seen incidents over the years where drivers coming out, obviously trying to release. It's interesting in iRacing because you're able to come into your pit box, not worry about the guy in front of you. You can run through him, but once you get out of the box, the contact again is real. So you have to be very smart coming out of your box. And again, these drivers pushing very hard. I think we all know how crucial it is to get in and out of the pit stop cleanly here. We hate to see a driver have an issue on pit lane, especially during a yellow flag.
So no cautions for the first 105 laps, 2 cautions in the space of 20 laps, Rob. That changes up the mindset of this race. And the thing is, if you're drivers, you've got to remember there's still 75 laps of this race to go.
Cautions breed cautions, do they not? They change everyone's mindset because you press that reset button and think, hey, okay, where am I now? How much have I moved forward from where I am? Now, let me change my strategy. What do I need to do? And people start thinking, hey, I want 3 or 4 more spots before we get that next yellow flag. And I know one's coming because, as I said, cautions breed caution. So the guys start getting more aggressive, take a little bit more risk. Maybe unnecessary at this point with still a couple of stops left. But again, that contact coming out of turn number 2, I think, as Aaron laid out, was pretty much straight up. Not a place to pass. Out of turn 2 on the outside is pretty risky. If you get a run like that, you're better just to tuck back in and make the move down into turn number 3. Jonathan Goke, of course, is on the inside. He's tracking out on the corner, potentially got a bit wide, but I don't think he expected to see the driver to the right side of him into the wall.
When I'm racing, there's so many times I just want to tell the other driver, just because you can doesn't mean you should. He did have that run to the outside, but the risk there is so great, and that's putting a lot of faith in the car on the inside, which their natural track out point. The thing with the Indy car is if you jump off the throttle mid-corner, you're all of a sudden losing that downforce. So when a car comes to your outside, you're thinking, oh, I need to put more wheel input. I need to lift off the gas to stay down, which the end result of that is pushing up even harder. So dangerous move there. Might see that final 10 laps and say, okay, he was going for it. But 78 laps, so much left on the line. He gets that pass. How much is he actually gaining on track? Of course, we're not in the driver's seat. We're not feeling what the cars are, and maybe that was the time that the tires were going down, but tough break.
Yeah, I think you're right, Aaron. And again, Demerit was thinking, hey, I got a great run here right now. I'm going to make a move. I think I would have rather seen him understand that he had a good run through there. It felt well. So next time back around, do the over-under. Get the high line coming through and crisscross him to get a better run out of turn number 3. And again, as you said, though, it's always hard to make a comment in terms of what a driver's motivation is in any kind of incident, knowing for sure that you're not the guy behind the wheel. Pace truck has ducked back on. We're getting ready to roll once again. 125 laps down, a 75 lap run still to go here. We're out of the gate. Michele Constantini, your leader in the 15. He'll lead him into turn number 1. Brandon Traino runs P2. Kevin Ellis and Zach Campbell swapping back and forth, 3 and 4. Johan Harth right in there as well. But Will Constantini will lead him down the back straight.
Mighty close to the work out of turn number 2, and actually battle for your race lead as they work themselves now down towards turn number 3 and 4. And it looks as though Brandon Traino, the last year's winner of the iRacing Indy 500, goes to the race lead. Aaron, he's looking to do the first ever 2-time winner, the first ever double here at IMS.
We're still in the 2-stop window. There's going to be no fuel saving to talk about right now. Should we go green to the end? As we got contact for P5. Oh, close call. Matt Pavelski, Johan Harth throwing a block, got hit in the rear. Might have been Goke. We may have front and rear wing damage, so that could come into play should we have green flag pit stops up front. They swapped while I was talking, and they're going to swap again going into 3.
Yeah, Pavelski's losing a lot of ground right now. Pavelski, of course, a former winner of the iRacing Indy 500. Look how close they were ahead of him. Jonathan Goke and Johan Harth as they work out of turn number 4 down towards the yard of bricks once again here, Rob. And again, there's a couple of drivers in this field who's looking to make history. The first 2-time winner of the iRacing Indy 500. And this actually is, since Tim Holgate came up short a couple of years ago, the closest we've got to seeing potentially a 2-time winner in this race.
Obviously, every one of these drivers should have scored a victory here before, trying to get that second win to put their name at the top of the history books. But I'll tell you, it just feels like the volume has been turned up in a big way. We still have 2 stops to go. As Aaron had said, potentially 155, lap 185 for those stops. Again, Aaron did say as well that we'll be full throttle all the way through because someone's going to be able to short stop somewhere in this if we do go green to the end. But I don't know, Will, if that's going to happen because the action is really turning back up. Constantini goes back to P1. Traino sliding into second. Teammate Campbell right behind him as the excitement too high up into the outside into the gray. Little touch of the wall coming out of 2.
Look how close this is right now. 129 laps and business, to quote good old JR, has picked up here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here, Aaron, because these drivers are running like it's the last 10 laps of this race, but there's still so many battles going on inside your top 10.
Oh, we've had contact 3 laps in a row with Jonathan Goke and others mid-pack. The tempers are starting to flare. Goke looks like he may have some left front wing damage. Lots of contact, and if you're betting on a yellow, it could come at any moment. They are not playing nice.
Yeah, we'll try and get a look at that damage on Jonathan Goke in a moment's time once we get the right camera shot to show that from. But Jonathan Goke, just having a look, yeah, his front left is damaged there. His front left wing plate is damaged. We just zoom in there from the header cam, and you just see that front left just a little bit damaged, and that's going to impact quite a bit. Now, the thing is here, Rob, he can ride that one out until the pit stop, but that will A, cost him fuel mileage, and B, that will cost him a little bit in terms of time when he makes his next pit stop.
Yeah, he got the 2 keys right now for Jonathan Goke, the kind of byproduct of the kind of crazy racing that we've seen over these last couple of laps. The leaders here, of course, all about continuing their momentum. Each driver taking a time up front. One lap it's Treno, one lap it's Constantini going back and forth. Zach Campbell in that number 2 has kind of been holding station there in P3. Kevin Ellis Jr., Johan Harth, 5th and 4th respectively. Oh, one driver down to the inside coming out of turn number 4. A little bit of an issue, but again, side by side past the yard of bricks, we continue to see the front spot swap between Constantini and Treno.
And of course, Treno, we talk about it so often. He was last year's winner in the iRacing Indy 500. But Michele Constantini, Aaron, we cannot discount him because he has been so close to winning an iRacing Indy 500 in years gone by as well. Treno back down to the inside, in towards turn 3 right now. In the short shoot, he has an advantage. But you've also got to remember the fact that Michele Constantini in the RLR esports car, sorry, Brandon Trainer's in the RLR esports car, Michele Constantini is a part of the wider organisation, Apex Racing UK, the Apex Racing team, who partner with Broken Arrow and the RLR car for the iRacing Indy 500. So actually, their cars are running P number 1, P number 2, and P number 3 on track right now, and P4 and P5.
It's nice to be among friends. As the laps tick down, though, with each lap, so does the realization that the guy running behind you might be a teammate or affiliated with your team. Each lap that goes, that friendship decreases more and more. When we get inside 20 to go, friends, what friends? Friendships have been I wouldn't say ruined, but definitely tarnished for a while, depending on contact here. Also, we're almost becoming desensitized to lead change in between 1 and 3. It's just been swap, 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 swap. Sort of what we saw in the Real 500 4 or 5 years ago, where just every time they're in 1, every time we're in 3, there's a change of the lead. As this run progresses, though, they aren't going to be lifting on the corner. That's one of the things different in the front of the pack than in the rear of the pack. They're timing their lifts for the one being passed, so they both enter single file. You get further in the pack, people will just fight tooth and nail, driving you to the bottom. That puts a lot of risk on the tires and equipment. Up front, all civil, but when we get inside the last quarter, then no quarter will be given.
The one thing I actually do love about this race here, Rob, and it's one of the things I always used to hate back in the day, is that we don't have to have the obligatory shots of side-by-side with wives and girlfriends in the last 10 laps of this race, because I can make a joke about some races, wives and girlfriends. I'm not going to do so because I fancy my life. But the good thing is that we get to focus on the actual on-track, although if our director Hugo Ruiz will actually Jonathan Goke's on towards pit road right now. So Jonathan Goke is coming on towards pit road from P, etc. on track. I think it was P number 10 at the time, but that right front has actually hurt him a little bit. He's on towards pit road. He's going to make himself his pit stop now, and he's just outside of that window, if I'm going to be honest here, Rob.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. I'll go right to Aaron after this, but for Goke to come in here on lap 136, I find that it's 34 laps. He'd have to do a couple of 32-lap stints, essentially, to get himself to the end. He may be banking on another yellow flag, but it's got to be the fact he just didn't like the handling of the race car with that front wing damage. Aaron, would you agree with that assessment?
I would. He's still in the pit, so perhaps did he also speed in the pits. So long pit stop. We knew he had a wing change, but this is, as we go yellow.
Yellow. It's turn number 2.
It's up front.
Yep, and I think it's Matt Pavelski. Matt Pavelski might have been involved in that one here.
Many cars been 1 and 2.
Well, we talked about this, didn't we, guys? That it was starting to get pretty aggressive. Drivers were taking a little bit of rust. We'll pick it up.
It was Pavelski in that number 17 Broken Arrow i5G Apex Racing Team car and others. Here's a replay then. Down through turn number 1. 3-car incident there, Rob.
Indeed, looks to me like he potentially had to check up coming through. The car kind of drifted wide. We'll get another look at it here as they work their way to turn number 1. Yes, look at him have to check up. I think the car probably started to skate up the racetrack a little bit for him. 3, I want to say potentially 4 drivers involved. I was thinking that may have been Scott McLaughlin was trying to come through there as well. I'm looking at Scott on my other screen. It looks like he's clean. Yeah, like he just had to check up, guys. And a driver getting in the back of him, and we know what kind of chain reaction happens on the exit of turn number 1.
So after the first 100 laps of this race being scored clean without a caution, we've had 3 in a total of 30-ish laps, Aaron.
And that incident very reminiscent to the wreck that took Lichtenberg out of this race. Pavelski just entered shallow. He was trying to do the right thing when he lifted. He was worried about hitting the car in front of him. The car behind, absolutely no chance. And we would have seen lifts all through the field 40 laps ago. Now, though, you can't afford. You know you've only got 10 quality laps with those tires. You got to get the positions before you drop back. That's the risk going to have to take. And once again, you pit here. We're still in the... You stop now. It's going to be close to make it on one more stop.
Yeah, I like it, Aaron. It's going to be close, isn't it?
We always get a yellow in this window that... You think it's just going to be an all-out sprint, throw strategy out the window, but Indy always throws a wrench into that.
As the drivers head themselves down pit road once again then, 138 laps of this race scored complete. Who knows what is going to happen next here, Rob, because, well, again, you've got to make sure you get it stopped to the marks, you've got to make sure you get in and out of your pit stall, you've got to make sure you get track position heading out of this pit stop.
Kelly Constantini, the leader coming in. Stop's looking good so far. Again, we'll look for contact this time as we had it on that last stop that Aaron had detailed. Everyone coming out cleanly at this point. We'll see how they cycle out when they come back around. But again, we'll go green at lap 140, 141. This is going to be super close. Will we be able to go green to the end? They've shown the ability to do it. But Aaron, I just think they've been pretty aggressive. Every one of these drivers knowing they need to get to the front. Nobody wanting to make any mistakes. Nobody wanting to give anything up. I think more importantly, you got to think we'll have at least one more yellow. If we don't, this is going to be a really interesting strategy run.
Well, the interesting thing is going to be, when do you pit when that window opens? I know as a driver, I don't want to pit with the crowd. Will the car behind mess up and blast me in the pit lane by doing 130 at the pit cones? Will somebody in front spin on entry, blocking the entrance? Now I've entered a closed pit. I prefer pitting by myself, but you're really not going to have that option. We're looking at the whole field having maybe a 2-lap window of when they can come in. So if we do go green to that point, the odds of an incident entering the pits are going to be very high.
Now, one thing I will say very quickly is, I was talking about previously, the wives and girlfriends of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and hopefully our director Hugo Louise will just switch his camera over to do a little side-by-side graphic, because I know that many people missed ESPN and ABC's broadcast of the Indianapolis 500. I've just made ourselves the wife and girlfriend. There it is up on your screen right now. That is our job done to honor the heritage, Rob.
Well, that's a tremendous piece of artwork as well, Will. I want to tell you that right now. But indeed, up and down pit lane, remember, each and every one of the drivers you've either got, over the years, you've either had husbands and wives there as well. The wives of the drivers, of course, in the IndyCar program. If it was Pippa Mann, her husband, of course, part of the engineering team for Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, which is now Arrow McLaren Racing SP. So, again, that family all racing all the time. But yeah, you're right. There's we appreciate that graphic, because now we can kind of go by it and Watch these final 60
We can
laps.
watch the rest of the race now,
That's it.
and it's out the way. The bingo card is ticked off. We're ready to go racing for the last, what is this, about 60 laps of this event here on Racesport TV, on iRacing, on the iRacing Esports Network. And what a race we've got coming up, because the thing is here, Aaron, we've got Brandon Trainer, again, a former iRacing Indy 500 champion. You've got Michele Constantini, who, in many people's opinion, should have already won one of these races. You've got Scott McLaughlin running in P number 7. You've got yourself Tim Doyle, who's hanging back there in 11th place, not doing much, but you know he can get there if he wants to.
Will anybody be able to knock off the front two? That's the question. Treno and Constantini have had an absolute stranglehold on the front two spots. Does anybody else have the car? Have they maybe made an adjustment mid-race? That's one thing we haven't talked about. Well, as the race progresses, as the track changes, who's staying up on their adjustments? This next 30-lap run is going to be a full-out sprint as the pace truck's about to pull off to the inside. But I like McLaughlin's car. He made a 3-wide pass just before that yellow. Watch for him to move up. We're going green.
We are. So Michele Constantini then will lead the drivers through corner number 4 here. It will be a total of 140 laps scored complete at a 200 here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 3 cautions of the day. It won't be the fastest ever iRacing Indy 500 anymore, but we are back to green flag racing once again, and the snake works itself down towards turn number 1. Constantini has the advantage. Actually, no, Trainer leads Constantini in second, and Jan Half in third place. Zach Campbell in 4th place. They work themselves now on the exit on turn number 2, and look at that already. Battles going on side by side here, Rob. Pre-race lead.
Looks like about a 9-car breakaway here early on. Top 5, top 6 kind of running together. We're 2 wide through turn number 1. Through the short chute right now, down to the inside. This is Tanner Watkins to the outside of the Team Talent Machine. Watkins to the 29, having a good run. The journalist from OpenWheels.com getting a good run down the back straightaway. But again, we're seeing the leaders just kind of work together. Your turn to lead, my turn to lead. Trainer will take the spot. Constantini will take the spot. I will mention Scott McLaughlin, though, because I believe that, just like Aaron, he's got an incredibly good race car. He's very happy with it. Has some of the fastest laps laid down by anybody right now. He has worked his way to P6. McLaughlin's on the move. So is Tim Doyle now into the top 10. But again, Constantini, the bottom of the racetrack to lead through 1.
We've already had some people asking, what is the prize for winning this race? There is no prize, apart from maybe a bottle of milk from mum and dad, your best friend, but glory. The glory of being one of only 11 names that have ever won the iRacing Indy 500, side by side and towards turn number 1. And it's Treno back again to the race lead through turn number 1. It is now go time, Aaron.
And still, though, top 2 have not changed. We've seen all different faces in P3 and P4. For our top 2, they just keep swapping. If I'm third on back, I'm going to pressure the front 2. I want to be part of that duo. It seems as long as the leaders are flip-flopping back and forth, it is very hard to overtake them. So you got to make the move now. I don't want to be third on back right now. This is the time. Go forward, throw strategy out the window, try to break up that power duo up front.
Yeah, as we're on board, we're going to be on board in a moment with Brandon Treno as they come down in towards turn number 1 again. And Brandon Treno is so aggressive here. Treno knows that he has got himself the opportunity right now, Aaron, to get himself into, well, the one and only club, the only drivers that have ever won the iRacing Indy 500 twice, and dare I say it, maybe only the only driver ever in the history of this race to get themselves back-to-back victories. That's how close this race has been over the years. So Treno and yellow, 4th caution of the day.
And it's in the back of the pack. It looks like it's the 32 car, Matt Hollabaugh, issues in turn 1.
And this looks like it might be a solo car incident, to be fair.
Contact.
Oh, there was contact, yeah, down in towards turn number 1. Here's the replay. They're coming in towards, yep, in towards turn number 1. And this is the reason why you've got to give room into that first corner, Rob.
Indeed, as it happened, it was such a slowly occurring event because it looked to me like the drivers were side by side. They had things handled. Polyball high on the racetrack, trying to hold his line to see if he corrects and goes in. That was just exit contact. Probably could have gave a little bit more room. He left enough, but again, the driver to the inside also drifted up a little bit into the side of him. Side-by-side contact, yellow flag comes out, and again, pressing the reset button here on lap number 146. Continuing to change how things shake down. It'll obviously change as well when drivers are going to come into pit lane. What do you think, Aaron? Do we see anybody now again? I wouldn't think so.
I'm going to jump in.
I think tires, and more tires.
You and your tires. That's right. You and your tires.
I used to be an IndyCar strategist in iRacing. I famously once won a race because of the fact that I out-strategized everyone in a top split event on iRacing. And at this point, your top 8, they can't risk coming on towards pit road. Because basically, if you're in the top 8, you do one thing, everyone else has to do the complete opposite, Rob. So I'm thinking Tim Doyle in P number 8, he will be the Pied Piper. If everyone ahead of them comes in, he will stay out. If they stay out, he will lead them in.
Or do we have a split? Look at this. Triano. He was the first driver to pit. Is Constantini going to dive across as well? He does not. Triano doesn't either. So there you have it. There you have it. They balk to the inside and pull back out, Will.
First driver in is Austin Espartee, by the looks of it. P number 11.
Yeah, from 11.
That's always right.
Well, Aaron, they're going to have fresh tires. We're going to see what they're able to do from further back in the field. Espartee, as you said, from 11th spot. Everybody else comes in. Top 10 drivers will run on the Firestones that they have. Lap 147. Man, I'm always intrigued by the way storylines changed here at the Indianapolis 500 because you never know. It takes one driver to do something different, and it shakes everything up. We'll see if they're able to attack early because we know these tires are going to be good for the first 6 or 7 laps.
Yeah, they're going to be good. And looking at tire fall off, we are looking of the cars up front. We're looking at about 0.4 a second a lap. If this goes green, which right now that's a good luck. But should this go green, they're going to have better tires through this run, and they're not going to have to take a full fuel load when they pit at the end. This could be the winning stop if we go green. Which, if it does, Rob, this is one of those times where Indy chooses who wins. As Will said, the top 8, they were locked into what they were going to do. So this could be Indy gifting 10th on back a chance at this victory should we go green.
You should have come in. In my opinion, you should have come in. Simple as that. And Espartee, he's been so good on strategy over the years that I'm not surprised he was a Pied Piper. I was about 4 places out of place there. Well, I should have been, because Tim Doyle decided to stay out, but Tim Doyle knows how to handle an old race car. That's one of the things that he's done so well over the years. Very quickly, by the way, we've got Christopher Demerit here on the Racebot TV iRacing virtual booth. Christopher Demerit, not the iRacing Indy 500 he would have wanted for 2020.
Yeah, definitely not, but I mean, had a pretty good first half of the race. Our whole entire team is strong, so that's really good to see. Just kind of made a move pretty late. I was pretty heated once that first happened, but I looked back at it, and I think he just had to back out too late, and he couldn't get out the throttle in time. But I'm glad to see our team still doing strong here, and hopefully one of us can finish on top.
Well, we're only 1 to go, so very quickly, shout out sponsors. Who's going to win this race?
I got to thank everyone at i5G, especially Brandon Trano, Michele Constantini. Steele found us a bunch of time in qualifying at the last minute. Also, shout out to Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan. They're sponsoring Trano and Zach in this race. So that's pretty cool to see.
And your winner?
I'll go with Trano 2-time.
Mr. Trano 2-time. That is Christopher Demerit pick there. Thank you very much. We are half a lap from going back to green flag racing. We've got 51 laps to go at the line. This race is far, far, far from over. 4 cautions here out of the 148 laps we've had so far. Anything can happen. This is Indianapolis. And also, those drivers that did take tires, catching is one thing, passing is another. But that long back straightaway between turn number 2 and turn number 3, that can become a draft fest city. So, Michele Constantini leads. Brandon Trainer in second place. Johan Half in third. Zach Campbell in fourth. Scotty McLaughlin in P5. Tanner Watkins in sixth. Liam Quinn in seventh. And Tim Doyle rounds out your top 8. 2 former Indy 500 winners inside your top 8. Green flag back in the air. We are racing once again here, Rob.
Couple of different storylines going to play out. We're either going green to the end or we're going to have another yellow flag. Either or, we're going to find someone out front before the end of this one. 4-driver breakaway early. Constantini gets a good jump on the line, rolling nicely through 1 and 2. Brandon Traino, last year's winner, of course, showing his poise. Did not make a move into 1. He'll try it as they work their way down the back straightaway again. This has been lap after lap after lap. Aaron Traino back to the bottom of turn number 3. He'll take the lead away. Constantini and Harth, second and third.
It's almost so here, Aaron. Those teammates do not want to work together right now because every time that Traino goes past Constantini, he doesn't leave enough room for Constantini to get back into line. And Johan Half, for the second time in as many laps, has always got himself up into P2. Oh, Rob.
Constantini again right in the hunt here. He'll lead him on the back straightaway. Let's see if we see Traino again back down to the inside. Harth has not got aggressive as of yet. We'll keep an eye on Austin Espety as well. He's the lead driver who put the fresh Firestones on coming into pit there. Of course, his wish is to go green all the way through to the end. He'll have fresh tires for this run, then a short run, short fill late in the race for his potential drive to the checkered flag. Those drivers still on the racetrack will have to do the full 9.3 second fuel run, likely, maybe a little bit less than that. But again, down to the inside goes Constantini. Will they just keep going back and forth? Constantini and Traino, P1, P2.
As we are on lap number 151 of this race right now, and down again to the inside, that will be Traino, Constantini going side by side again here, Aaron. Now, there is an advantage to doing this. We've seen it for so many years that if you've got 2 people together, you can do one string over the other. It allows you to build up a lead. But the issue is, there's not a lead here, it's a pack.
At what point in time will Johan, he could if he wanted to, force the issue, dive it to the inside of Scott McLaughlin. He was up to P4 briefly on the inside. That's that tire fall off early in the run. You're going to complete that pass on the inside. Not so now, but back to third, Johan. He's been third pretty much the entire race. He could, with that run, if he wanted to, go 3 wide. They might not come out of 3 and C4 all in one piece, but at some point in time, he is going to be able to use that toe and make the overtake. He's not at that point yet.
What would it mean, Rob, for Scotty McLaughlin to win this race? We know that he's destined to make the Speedway in a couple of months' time.
You know what? If he were able to win this race, it would add a question at least to my repertoire when I was able to see him during 500 qualifying before the pre-up to the race itself. Did this event, did running all these Indianapolis 500 iRacing events help you when you got here? Do you feel like you're going to be more prepared than you potentially would have been having run so many events here on iRacing? I think if he was able to win here, that would spin such a great story into the month of August.
Runs in P number 5 right now, and he's just behind Zach Campbell, although it does look as though these top 4 drivers are slowly starting to check out a little bit. Liam Quinn, by the way, runs in P number 6. Tim Doyle in P number 7. Actually, Tim Doyle is that driver here, Aaron, who I want to make sure we keep an eye out on, because he will do it one by one, one at a time. He's part of the Snake Pitch Ludicrous Speed team, who have been, of course, a factor here on iRacing for the last 10 years. Tim Doyle is the oldest driver in this race to have won an iRacing Indianapolis 500. He did so before I even started commentating this event.
He has been around. I think he probably had the IndyCar somehow a day before it was released. That's how long he's been on the iRacing IndyCar program here. He has been IndyCar faithful, leagues, official series. He's a force to be reckoned with. Really a flat oval specialist. Put him on Milwaukee or Phoenix and just give him the win and race for second. That's how good he is on the flat ovals. Here at Indy to win again, going back to 2011, yellow.
So 5th caution of the day then, and who is it? I see Frank Levesque, who's very slow on track. It might well have been him. And yep, Frank Levesque up on his roof right now. That is going to be a shame for him in the Spark VR last lap motorsports car. Here's a replay up on your screen, and my word, that's a mission incident coming out of turn number 2. Rob, that is one of these, oh my word! That's a wicked incident.
Yeah, it feels like just side-by-side contact, getting pitched into the wall, and indeed, that thing flipped up very, very quickly. Drivers, again, just not giving each other quite enough room. We'll get another good look at it here coming by. Indeed.
That's 2001 Texas.
Indeed, he actually came across a bit from left to right, hooked him, and into the wall quickly.
Well, that's one of those times that when you meet your spotter, you're going to say, really? You said clear. I was not.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah. Your spotter's going to say you're okay, and you're going to basically punch him in the face. Or her in the face. But, yeah, long story there. But we are under our 5th caution of the day here. And, again, this means that basically they are 15 laps shy of being able to go to the end of this race, Rob. So, in this case, everyone, in my opinion, has to come in.
I would have to think that they kind of rolled the dice on the last stop. Let's see if they do indeed pull down here. Brandon Trano in the number 5 would lead them down. I got to think I would agree with you. It's time to come into pit lane. Indeed, all drivers have come in. We may see the entire field actually come in to reset. I don't think anybody's going to stay out.
Staying out.
Couple drivers, yeah. A couple drivers elected to stay back out from much deeper in the field. Otherwise, Trano will lead them in. He'll be the first to get down to his box. And guys, this could be interesting. Got to have a good stop. Don't make any mistakes, of course, on the way in. That's the key here. Everybody coming in cleanly so far. I don't know that we had any issues with drivers locking it up coming in, so otherwise should be some clean running here.
The 2 drivers that stayed out, Aaron, Adam Blocker, who came home 2nd last year, and Henry Bennett, who has come so close to winning an iRacing Indy 500 in the past as well. These are 2 drivers that if they want to roll the dice and get themselves up to that iRacing Indy 500 mountain, this is the time to do it.
I'm actually amazed more of the cars that pitted on the most recent yellow did not stay out.
Not even one. Yeah, not even one guy, Aaron.
That they only did 7 laps. I don't know if to break that stranglehold up front, I don't know if you're running 10th, if you're just gonna pass everybody, including Trano and Constantini. That would have been the time to split the strategy. You pitted previous yellow, everybody still has 1 stop to go. That would have been the time to shift the race. If everybody that would have pitted last yellow stayed out, it would have been hard for Trano and Constantini to get back up to the front.
The thing is here, Rob, is that these drivers who have pitted are hoping right now that Adam Blocker and Henry Bennett have enough speed to not completely disrupt the flow of this race, because if Johan Half has actually come out in 3rd place on that pit stop with a shorter pit stop than Brandon Trano and Zach Campbell, if the top 3 can get ahead and then you've got Adam Blocker and Henry Bennett there being a buffer, it will basically mean that you're going to have Johan Half, Brandon Trano, Zach Campbell, maybe Michele Constantini, and maybe Scott McLaughlin running for the win. Right now, what you've got to make sure is that these drivers who have stayed out either keep up top speed or basically fade to the back in 2 laps.
Indeed, but we've seen so much pack racing here where drivers going back and forth and not really getting that aggressive. I have to think that with the experience that both Blocker and Henry Bennett have, they may be able to stay in that draft, leverage it, and maybe punch above their weight class a little bit. You know, they're 11, 12 laps into that initial stint. They still have a long way to go in terms of fuel. They're going to go another 20 laps into this run before they got to come back in. And you know what? I'm with Aaron. I'm surprised that a number of the drivers who did that stop, kind of pulled in, Espity and all back, Christian Steele, Chris Cahill. I'm surprised some of those drivers didn't stay out, because I think that would have kind of shaken up the status quo, Aaron, giving them a chance to run in that lead group. You want to be in the lead group. If we go green to the end, you're diving into pit lane, you really reset the bar and put yourself in the front group, because they weren't able to do anything. They were able to get into the top 10 after getting fresh rubber.
Exactly, and you only would have to do 10 laps on tires that have 7 laps. I think he could have stayed in the top 7, top 10 on those tires. They still had some life to them. And if you're going to road race us and work it backwards, we're looking at a 10-lap run to when the final window will open up if it goes green the rest of the way. So I would have stayed out, and in my mind, I know I'm pitting in 10 laps. If you're in the top 15, you can pit and stay on the lead lap. So varying strategies that were possible, only 2 drivers took it. We'll see how Blocker and Bennett function here as we're, I think, about to go green.
We are. Pace car's going to dart itself down towards pit road once again. It's worth noting, in 20 laps time, if you pit, you will stay on the lead lap. So this is green flag back in the air. 43 laps to go here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And Aaron, that's an important number. In 20 laps time, you can do a full fuel pit stop, get yourself to the end, and take tires, and stay on the lead lap. That's important because that means if a caution comes out, you cycle back to the front.
Exactly. So lap 169, 170, if somebody is going to split this into a 10 and 30 or do 20 and run to lap 180, that's going to be the time. For Constantini and Treno right now, this is a scary time. They've had control of this race. They've been swapping up front. Now they have people they haven't ran with all race in front of them. So this is a very nerve-wracking time for 2 drivers that have ran a perfect race to this point.
In towards turn number 1, almost 3 wide there, Rob. In towards turn number 1, and actually it is Jan Half who now has the lead of this race. Henry Bennett second, Brandon Treno third, but Treno immediately going for second place on the exit of turn 2.
And Henry Bennett's not getting super aggressive either. He's not trying to dive down to the apex. He's kind of running that kind of third line up a little bit higher. A couple of drivers look to potentially think about 3 wide, but again, wiser and tuck back in. Bennett now running in the 3rd spot. Trainer's been able to get by. Zach Campbell now getting the run. But again, Bennett is staying in the middle of the lead group. That's the key. Adam Blocker's right there as well. As Aaron said, they only need to go 10 more laps. If they're anywhere within the top 10, they're going to put themselves in still a pretty good position. Both Blocker and Bennett know they've got the used tires. They're a lot longer into the stint. They're staying on the top part of the racetrack. But their key is to do whatever they can, Will, to stay in that lead group. A little bit of trouble coming out of the corner there for Bennett. Blocker closes right back up, but they're still running 5th and 6th, 7th and 8th as they work their way down to turn 3.
But also, you think about it the other way here, Aaron. Look how much positions they've lost in the last 4 laps of this race. Bennett and also your former iRacing Indy 500 champion, because they just don't seem to have the grip out of turn number 4.
Well, for that strategy to work, they needed almost a full gang to stay out with them. They needed 6, 7, 8 cars for the cars on fresh tires to use their stuff before they got to them. So having only 2 out there, they were pretty much sitting ducks. If there would have been 8 of them, I would have really liked to see
trouble!
Wreck on the back straight.
Big wreck. Tim Doyle's involved. The 2012 Indy 500 champion, the driver who we thought could well have got himself the first ever 2-time victory, is out of this race and more. Replay coming up right now.
that Liam Quinn.
Oh, that's a wicked crash.
Same thing we saw in that last race. It was just 2 drivers getting together side by side to a certain extent. 1 driver getting turned. That was halfway down the straightaway again, just like the last caution.
Oh, that's horrible. Horrible luck there for Tim Doyle. He did nothing wrong there at all, Aaron.
Liam Quinn, he's going to have a word with his spotter at the end of this race as well. So in this top split, we very rarely see incidents, and just the slightest of contacts. Now, sometimes you can get away with, if you hit him square in the side pod, that guy into the rear wheel would just hook Quinn across Doyle's nose. So unfortunate, that's 2 very odd incidents. Well, we rarely see incidents on the straightaway.
Indeed.
Yeah, so in terms of who can become a 2-time winner of this race, we are down basically to 1 driver. But that's the driver, Rob, who is leading this race, Brandon Treno, who won the 2019 iRacing Indianapolis 500. The reason I say that Tim Dial on pit road, he's out of contention. We've also got Mal Pavelski, who's won this race before. He's out of contention. Brandon Lichtenberg, out of contention. It basically is Brandon Traino to win his first double and the first ever double at Indy or bust.
And Will, look at this. This is Henry Bennett and Adam Blocker. They are the Pied Piper, leading everyone down to pit lane. The top 6 or 7 drivers staying out. So many more coming now into pit lane to change up here. Again, 37 laps to go. You know, Aaron, I don't know. Do you think anybody could potentially get out there right now and try to save fuel and go to the end of this one?
Let's see if anybody pits next lap on the 1 to green. This is when you can steal the race. This is shaping up just like the 2016 iRacing Indy 500. This is the lap. This is the time that somebody, if we go green, that we haven't talked about all race, is going to steal this victory.
I'm thinking Alexander Rossi right now, in the 100th running of the Indy 500. I'm thinking almost Bertrand Baguette, Rob. I mean, he was only a couple of laps away from winning the 2011 Indy 500. He's a driver that everyone forgets. He was that close to winning.
And that's it. You know, you've got to be able to roll the dice. And when you're thinking about that fuel strategy, it's all about the drivers around you as well. It's not so much you need someone to work with, but you need someone of like speed because you got to stay there with them. You're trying to save as much fuel. You're just breathing it in every corner. We know, of course, the whole clutch and coast line from Brian Herta to Alexander Rossi that surprised him with that Indianapolis 500 victory. He couldn't even get around to victory lane. He ran out of fuel. Could that happen here today as well? Aaron told us from the get-go, if you're saving potentially 34, 35 laps, we're still under yellow now. Aaron, you mentioned it. If we see somebody else come back out and then go back into pit lane again for just that little bit more fuel to make sure they're completely topped up before we go to green, this storyline could completely change over the next 30-something laps.
If you're the last 2-3 cars in line, you have to pit. What are you going to lose? Absolutely nothing. As the pits are almost just as busy. This is gonna be great.
Yes.
What do you do if you're the leader right now? What do you do if you're Traino, Will? You can't give up track position. You know, Brandon Traino, Johan Harth, Zach Campbell, Michele Constantini, Scott McLaughlin. You're top 5. You're not giving up that track position. You've just been into pit lane. You know you have one more stop coming, but they're just watching everybody else come in, giving them all the opportunity to potentially fuel save for the race win. This is incredible.
Okay, so the only thing I want to say is that your top 5 drivers are all part of the same team. So, what you could do, and this is controversial me saying it, but if you've got the same team in your top 5, you might, Aaron, try to dictate the pace. A bit like a peloton at, the Tour de France.
You beat my analogy there, but even if they slow up, I don't think our top 5 can make it. They're going to have to go.
And that's the thing. You've got to either go or go slow. And at Indy, you've got to do one of the two. You can't mess around and go from one to the other. This is your chance to make that decision, and you can't change it from now.
And going back maybe 6-7 years, talk about strategy. When you choose it, you have to stay with it. Tony Kanaan at Pocono that one year, going back and forth on strategy, that's not going to work. The strategy you choose, you've got to stick with it. And for the 7-8 guys that came in on the 1 to green, it's really going to be a battle of who's going to save the most early on to be able to run further at more speed. We're about to go green. Let's hope this goes green to the end.
If it does go green to the end, this race will be so entertaining at the end. On board from the rear of the Total number 5 machine are Brandon Traino and the Rahal Lanigan Racing car. Back to green flag racing here in the 2020 iRacing Indianapolis 500, and these guys have got to go right now because they know that behind them the drivers that are going to try and run to a fuel number. It is one of those Indy 500s that, the purists absolutely love. It's not always about who is the fastest driver. It's about who can work with their car, what they have in front of them or behind them, and work it to the best of their advantage. It is currently Johan Harth who leads the way. And interestingly, of course, here, Rob, He is going to go side by side with Brandon Trainer once again. I thought actually Trainer might have just stayed in the slipstream for a bit there.
Well, like you said, two drastically different storylines playing out for the people involved in this particular race right now. You were either out front, you stayed out, you know you've got one more potential green flag pit stop coming up. You are full throttle, 100%, trying to pull away, doing whatever you can to get a gap you potentially can here. And these guys are pushing as hard as they possibly can. The guys in the back, as we said, it's such a different story, such a different race now. You're cruising around, trying to stay in the draft, trying to save fuel. Up front, Johan Harth putting his name in the fight. Brandon Traino and Michele Constantini, the two drivers really who have been just going back and forth. If I wrote the story now, I'd say that Brandon Traino has simply just managed the race from start to finish. Both he and Constantini have been effortless and been able to go to the front of the pack at will, going back and forth with each other. Right now, those front-running 4 or 5 drivers trying to stretch away the most they can. Scott McLaughlin into the fight here as well. He's P5 in that number 6.
Yeah, Scott McLaughlin in that number 6 car up into P number 5. And actually, I'm kind of sat here scribbling on a notepad right now here, Aaron, because if there's a kind of like a middle ground, you'd want a caution to come out in about 17 laps. That would equalize the field in such a way that those who have pitted last time around would not gain that much in terms of fuel mileage and tires compared to these guys out front who are pushing. You got to remember, those guys who are on newer tires, they don't want to push that hard because of the fact they want to save that fuel. So normally, P number 6, etc., will be battling up with your top 5, being on pressure tires, but not this time because of the fact that actually all they care about is being in that draft. And actually, if you are Michele Constantini or Scott McLaughlin, maybe you try to be like Eddie Irvine, 1997, at the Japanese Grand Prix, and just be a kind of rear gunner to slow the guys behind you to allow your teammate to pull away.
With having this split strategy as we're having, it's the thing we're going to be looking at, and this lowers the odds of the yellow. The people in the back aren't racing each other, they're racing their gas tanks. So they aren't going to be fighting in the back. The people in the top 5 know that there's still a pit stop to go for them, so they're not going to be fighting as much. So that really decreases the odds of a yellow. This is, we have about 3 different strategies. We had cars that pitted on the first lap, then cars that pitted on the 1 to green. This is, it's going to take 5 notebooks to pay attention to all the varying strategies we got right now.
It will. You guys, if you look further back in the field, really interesting too. Leaders doing 40.6s. Philip Kraus in the 17th, Chad Simpson in the 19 and 18th, and AJ Burton in the 18 and 19th, all turning 41.9s. These guys are a full second off the pace, cruising at the very back. They came in at the very end of that caution period. Kingsbury, Kraus, and Simpson a second off. They're totally on full fuel save mode. If we go to the end, those are 3 guys that may find themselves in the fight for this race win.
And the thing is, Rob, if you're going to do it, you got to do it early. Danica Patrick, of course, he won the 2008 Japanese Grand Prix in IndyCar, the Indy 300 in Japan. And the reason why she won that race was because of the fact that she managed her fuel early. Elia Castroneves, who of course gave us starting command for us here today, he went aggressive, then tried to save fuel. He didn't have enough. If you're going to do it, you got to go early, you got to commit to it. And that's one of the hardest things to do. Because yes, you're not on a road course. You run to a fuel number, there's someone in your ear saying, okay, I need to do an X. You try to run to that number. If you try to do that on an oval, it often feels as though you're fighting a losing battle, but you've got to stay committed.
Yeah, it's all. That's the word, commitment and believing in your strategist, believing in the project, and believing in the plan that you've set out. Is that correct, there?
Yeah, looking at the speeds in the back of the field, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, being a second off. If we go green to the end, this will be a 35 lap run. 35 at a second. The leaders could still win this race if they save too much fuel. They're going to have to save fuel and also look at the time delta to the people in front and the estimated pit speed of the people up front. If I'm in the top 5, if I only need 2 or 3 gallons, forget the tires. There's not enough time. This could come down to 1 or 2 seconds.
Correct, and that's what I was just about thinking, is that it's 34 or 35 seconds on pit road end to end. Now you take away the tires, you add maybe a couple of gallons of fuel, that will take that down to about 30 seconds. And right now, the gaps between the leaders and those who are in that fuel saving pack is about 0.7 of a second a lap. Rob, this is going to be mighty close. So close that literally I'm punching numbers in right now, and it is going seesawing one lap to another. This could be wafer thin, and it comes down to how hard can you push, how hard can you dare push, and how much do you dare save.
Indeed. I love the fact that it's coming down to the exact final lap. It's not like we have some kind of a window that you guys have got your calculators out, you're trying to figure out where things are going to happen. This is coming down to the final lap. Everyone having to hit their marks absolutely correctly. Up front, these guys continue to go at it as they have, back and forth. Brandon Traina will go into the lead. Then it's Johan Hart, then Zach Campbell. They just keep going back and forth. Each driver taking an opportunity to run up front. First driver's coming into pit lane, though. Well, here we go. Here we go.
Perfect, Aaron.
Yes, pit now, get tires, and run absolutely as hard as you can. You're going to be even faster, not on a full fuel tank. You're not going to have to take that much, but with tires, they're going to be a second quicker than those saving fuel. This, I think, if you stayed out, this is your only chance at victory.
And also, Aaron, it's a split strategy for the RLL car and also the Broken Arrow stroke Apex Racing Team cars. They basically are putting their eggs into two different baskets right now. So whatever happens, they're not going to go down a lap by the looks of it. But also, and Traino's on towards pit road as well. So he's coming in actually one lap later. But Scott McLaughlin and Adam Blocker stay out on track.
This is going to force the back cars to run a little bit quicker. They're going to have to run a little bit quicker because these cars are going to be coming. So now, you mentioned the Peloton. Now you have the leaders. Well, they're going to be behind the pack, but they're going to be going fast enough that the Peloton's going to have to go quicker if they want to maintain the lead. The second they lose track position to the cars that have just pitted, it's over for them. So they're going to have to really measure fuel burn and time lost.
Scotty McLaughlin was supposed to be running in the Indy 500 in a week's time. He was leading a lap there. He just pulled himself on towards pit road from the race lead. What a story that is, Rob.
This is absolutely tremendous. You'll wonder about the strategists on every one of the teams here. Of course, all these guys up front with the RLR team making different options, different aggressive moves here. Constantini will find himself further back in the pack now after making that pit stop. It's all about seeing how things now unfold. Scotty McLaughlin has led a couple of times. He's kind of been biding his time back there, Will. 5th, 6th, 7th place. He looks like he's going to be a guy involved in the scrap here as well. I like the move to pit lane. Aaron, you were super excited about it. You said if you're a leader, this was your only option. Get in, get fresh tires, and start on the pit stand, everyone in the car itself. It's the strategy. It's what the drivers have to do on track. Every guy, every personnel on that team gets to play a role. Every guy in the pit stop gets to play a role. And I love it when the engineers and the strategists get into it. This is what they get paid for, and this is why they're so crucial when it comes to winning an Indianapolis 500.
Gap between Brandon Traino in P number 15 and Adam Blocker in P number 1 is 32 seconds right now. We expect here, Aaron, that your top 10 at least are going to have to start saving fuel. How they do that is one thing. Of course, we haven't talked about it all race, but under caution, they would have gone to what we call Fuel Map 8. And that basically is the safety car fuel map that they basically burn as little fuel as possible. Right now, they might well, especially in the draft, be running Fuel Map 2, maybe even Fuel Map 3, where they are saving as much fuel as they can while still maintaining the draft.
Traino on back as Traino does make the overtake. Constantini now is the lead of that group. Tough time to be that pack group. You got to go as fast as you can, but at the same time, we know the tire fall off. This could be the battle for the race win later on if we go green to the end. So as a group, you got to go really fast, but you want to be the lead of that group. So working together while trying to win a race, very difficult. It's not hurting their time. The fact that the lead does flop back and forth. You can gain a 10th, and they're going to need every 10th they can. If yellow comes out right now, though, my goodness, this would be one of those times where the track really has a say on who wins this thing.
So Adam Blocker is on pit road, of course, the driver who last year finished second, Rob. And he's on towards pit road. He's making a final stop, as well as Martin Miller, a driver who came home third in this race previously. That means that it's now Chris Cahill in the lead of this race. He's a part of Ludicrous Speed and Team Snake Pit, and he came home fourth, well, kind of fourth yesterday in the first of these races that took place. Unfortunately, though, he had a situation under yellow, someone passing under a pace car that went back to him. Chris Cahill, this is one of his bookmark events that he's always wanted to win. He is currently 17 laps away from doing that.
Yeah, and look at the lap times. That's the key for me right now. 41.5 last time for Chris Cahill. Tanner Watkins, 41.8. João Valverde, 43.9. These guys, it's been 20 laps since they came in, so they're looking at trying to do a 36, 37 lap stint. Another driver in the pit lane right now coming in.
So Chris Cahill's in.
Cahill.
And that means that Tanner Watkins now takes over the lead of this motor race. Tanner Watkins, of course, a part of the team talent with Watkins Motorsports Group, but also, of course, Aaron, who last year did the Open Wheels Indy 500, but also basically brought this race to life with the most comprehensive guide ever to the iRacing Indy 500.
Watkins has a car that just pitted Martin Miller in front of him. That is good news for Watkins if he's on fuel conservation mode. The more cars you have in front of you, of course, the bigger the draft, the more the fuel saving. He seems to be the first car that pitted on the initial stop. People behind them pitted and then pitted on the one to go. So 2 strategies. Can Watkins save enough? And if I'm out there, I'm also thinking 196. If we get a yellow, correct, 196 after, race is going to be over. So if I know I'm going to have to stop and I'm going to come out behind the first 5 that pitted, I'm running it till it's dry, much like Robbie Gordon did in 99, running out of fuel, coming to the white flag. Stay out there, hope that luck goes your way.
At this point, Rob, you need to be committed. And if you're Tanner Watkins, Jeff Drake, Stefan Remedy, or Yelva Verde, this is the case to say, you know what? This is my chance to win an iRacing Indy 500. It's first or nothing. Stay out, hope for it, dream for it, and hope that fuel mileage works for you.
And that the word that came to my mind right when you said it there was commitment. You've made your bed. This is it. This is your strategy. You got to commit to it. Sleep in that bed and see what happens, because at this point he's out front. He's turning laps right now around 41, 42 seconds, trying to take care of the car, trying to make sure that he can just cruise it around. He's still got a big gap on a guy like Brandon Traino. That's the biggest thing. He's still quite a ways back. There's 14 laps to go. Watkins will have to just cruise it across the line. He's probably going to run out coming to the line because he's waited that long. There are drivers that pit after him that could go a little bit longer. Jeff Drake potentially went a little bit longer. As we said, we talked about Chad Simpson and Ray Kingsbury and AJ Burton. Those drivers pitted right at the end of that yellow as well. They still have a shot at it here. This could be one of those deals, guys, one of those races where drivers start to fall by the wayside, totally out of fuel, having to come to pit lane for a splash and go.
You know what, Aaron? For Tanner Watkins, what a victory this could be. He's currently 11.6 seconds ahead of Jeff Drake. Then you've got yourself, Drake, Stefan Remedy, Jason Brophy, Yelva Verde, Ray Kingsbury. Well, actually, no, Verde is the last of that group. The first of these drivers who have pitted, they're currently 22 seconds behind Tanner Watkins with 12 laps to go. Watkins, basically, if he can do a 41, well, he'd be fine, but he's not. He's doing a 43.6 right now. He needs to pick up the pace. He needs, ironically, to hope that he gets some form of traffic that he can draft behind in these last few laps.
These lap times are more reminiscent of a volatile stock market, going way up and then way down, way up, way down, as they try to balance the fuel to the right window. Watkins has slowed up. He was running 41s. Now he's in the 43.6 bracket. He's going to come across the line again. We'll get our next lap time. He's down to the 44s, 44.4. The group behind him, which pitted on the one to green.
Oh, trouble! Right, I saw trouble. Yeah, we got trouble.
Yeah, we got big trouble.
caution.
McLaughlin.
Guy McLaughlin is around. And well, this changes everything for everyone.
Just when we thought, guys, that we had things figured out, that we were attempting to calculate whether Tanner Watkins could make it, we have contact coming down, I believe, through turns number 3 and 4. We'll watch them roll in. I saw this kind of start to develop. It was getting a little bit hectic up front. One driver got a little wider. And one driver just up into the wall. He came back across, caused another driver to move from left to right. McLaughlin with nowhere to go. One driver hung up in the fence as well. This changes everything with just a handful of laps remaining. This is going to be a wild finish. Here's another shot at it. Yeah, a number of drivers involved. Big wreck there in turn number 4.
Oh, my word. We're going to have a 7-lap shootout here, Aaron.
I think everybody's going to have to... Well, do you pit for... I think you have to pit for tires. You're going to be 0.6 of a second slower. I think you got to pit.
You know what, Rob? I'd stay out if you're Johan Harth or Zach Campbell or Michele Constantini or Brandon Traino, I'd stay out because of the fact that you've got 10 laps fewer than most other people. Those tires haven't completely gone off yet.
Well, there's a couple of different ideologies, both Aaron and Will presenting a couple of different ideas here. I'm feeling right now for Tanner Watkins. I have to believe now, Aaron, you can confirm this with me. He'll be able to go to the end now with these 3, 4, 5 caution flag laps. He should be able to cruise to the end, but his tires, as we know, 27 laps already since his last stop, so his tires are chewed up. He'll have guys eating them up like crazy. Does he come to make a stop right now, or does he try to stay out here for the last 5 laps?
His only way to win might be betting that we go green, then yellow, green, then yellow. If we get 2 yellows within half a lap, he wins this race. He knows people in the back on split strategies, people coming up with faster tires. It's going to be nuts, but at the same time, if it goes green...
Come on, Tanner, stay out. Come on, Tanner.
Do it!
He will have track position, though. The 6th on back stays out. There is our split strategy. Traino stays out. Constantini stays out. Johan stays out.
Can you believe, Aaron, how that yellow flag changed the potential success for Brandon Traino? We were looking at telling a story of Tanner Watkins clutching and coasting it all the way to the win here in the iRacing Indy 500. That yellow flag changes everything. He elects not to stay out, and everybody comes down pit lane. Guess who's back up front, P1, P2, the drivers that we have watched all night long, Traino and Constantini, 1st and 2nd. How did this happen to come back to them?
Will, you mentioned the 2011 opener on ABC. One of the lines was you're either first or forgotten. And broadcast sense, I've always referenced Baguette as that French driver nobody remembers. That's what happens. Watkins, if this doesn't pay out, which right now it doesn't look like, next year it'll be like, oh, there was this one guy that almost went on fuel, but the yellow came out. That is the cold, harsh truth of Indy. You're either first or forgotten, and for Watkins, that yellow, oh, that hurts.
You know what? To tick off the last part of the iRacing Indy 500 bingo card, Rob, this race has never finished under caution. Wow. So, for Tanner Watkins staying out, you'd been hoping that maybe this race did finish under caution. And actually, if you did stay out, the way the field had been stacked up might have led to another caution.
You know, I think, Will, what we had said was, he had committed to going to the end. And I want to say that him coming down pit lane was throwing that away. I don't think he's going to have a chance to win this thing right now with Traino and Constantini and Harth in front of him. The amount of speed they have shown, they've kind of controlled the day so far. We're going to go back to green eventually, and these guys are going to run away, and it's going to be a mano-a-mano battle, I think. We may throw Johan Harth in there. It could be 3 drivers fighting it out, but it's likely going to be Traino and Constantini going at it.
More drivers on towards pit road, by the way. Ray Kingsbury's just come in.
Indeed, Kingsbury, one of the drivers who waited again to the end. I'm surprised he wouldn't stay there as well to get the best position he could.
He was the first car in the wall in that incident, so he's going to need some repairs there.
Also worth
I thought of Watkins was simply this. We said it before, cautions breed cautions. We're going to the end of the Indianapolis 500 here. If I were him, I would have stayed out. He would have had the fuel to make it to the end. All it takes is one more driver into the wall 2 laps in, he still has the lead, or 1 lap into the green flag run. Another driver's on the wall. He ends up getting a chance to win this thing. Really, right now, he's hoping for a top 5.
Okay, Chris Cahill is 8 laps on a set of tires right now. That is about 8 laps shorter than everyone else in front of him. The issue is for Chris Cahill, however, Aaron, he's got himself 3 drivers who are all part of the same team ahead. Brandon Traynor, Michele Constantini, and Johan Harf. They're going to make life miserable for Chris Cahill on these last 7 laps.
I'm more interested in how fast Watkins is going to get around Cahill. Cahill may be able to get in front of 1 or 2 of the cars, but those cars have 15 or so laps on them. This yellow may have been Watkins' break.
Aaron, I was just going to say that. It's interesting. He could rub this back in our faces right now with a car that has fresh tires, just the amount of fuel he needed to get to the end. He's 16 laps to the good on tires from Traynor, Constantini, and Harth. They've just been so good. I don't know whether or not he's going to be able to go around them. They're going to be single file. Will, this is going to be fantastic. Couple of laps to go. I think we're going to go green this time by.
It's deep breath time. Pace going towards pit road. Green flag back in the air. 7 laps to go here in the 2020 iRacing Indianapolis 500. Traynor, Constantini, Harf, Cahill, Watkins. They are your top 5, but Rob, your top 2, a great pull away there.
Yeah, we've seen that all night, have we not? They've been able to pull away together, swapping back and forth. Here comes Watkins. He's thinking go to the inside of Cahill. I think Watkins has got to go quick and get up to the 4 spot. He's got to battle it. Here goes Watkins to the inside. Book it. He'll go to the inside of turn number 3 through the short chute. Watkins now to P4. He's going to line him up. Fresh Firestones on the car for Tanner Watkins. He's into 4th. He's going to make a move. Here he comes down the straightaway, Will.
Look at this. Look at the speed Watkins has right now. But he's boxed in on the outside line in towards turn of 1. Going around the outside of Johan Harf into 3rd place. My word, Aaron, what a run here by Watkins, and he's going to go down to the inside or the outside of Constantini. They're going to go 3-1 towards turn number 3. You can't do that with 6 laps of the race to go, but they're going to go side by side, P1, P2, Watkins in 3rd place. This is incredible.
That yellow could have been a saving grace if he didn't have enough fuel. That yellow, what we thought was his, as he's going to go to the inside. He gets squeezed almost to the pit wall attenuator, but Watkins to the point. Look at we're 3 wide into 1.
Holy smoke.
Trouble.
And into the wall. 5 laps to go. Oh my word. Watkins in the race lead. Constantini into the wall. This could be it. This could be a 1-lap shootout. But the thing is here, Aaron, those 2 laps by Tanner Watkins are some of the best I've ever seen in the iRacing Indy 500, period.
That was a spirited drive. There's a few times that you get to see when everything comes together in iRacing, when you get the perfect lap or 2. For Watkins, that was it. A year's worth of practice of thinking about this race culminated to those 2 laps we just saw.
There is very few people in the iRacing IndyCar community who respects this race and loves this race more than Tanner Watkins. We still need to wait here, Rob, to see whether or not we're going to have a 1 lap to go, or this race is going to finish under yellow. But as it stands right now, Tanner Watkins, in my opinion, those 2 laps were incredible.
Here's the thing, and again, coming down the back straight, he got super aggressive, made that great move by Chris Cahill to be able to go to P4, got right up in with Johan there and started battling out for 3rd. And in my mind, I'm thinking 6 laps to go. You've got good tires. Show a little bit more patience. He did not. Obviously, coming out of turn number 4, got to the inside, was able to get by Traynor, almost got pinched, as Aaron said, into the pit attenuator right at the end of pit lane. He's able to take the lead into turn number 1. Had he not done that, had he not shown that much aggression, if we eventually do not go back to green, he won that. He will have won this race with absolute sheer unbridled aggression. Not patience, not maturity, not relaxing, not biding his time, going to the lead immediately. If we go back to green, he's got the tires. He's going to be able to potentially pull away. But what a storyline for Tanner Watkins. He almost won it on fuel. He's going to win it potentially with a tremendous call to come to pit lane when the top 5 drivers stayed out on track.
I've got a feeling it's going to be a white and green at the same time here, Aaron. But the thing is, the driver in second place, Brandon Traynor, is on 21 lap old tires. So the thing is, Brandon Traynor, who won this race last year, who played the dice, the strategy call to try and keep that race lead here in the dying moment of the 2020 iRacing Indy 500, might well be the sitting duck that Tanner Watkins needs to take victory here today, and it will be the 11th winner with no 2-time winners in the history of this race. Now, if Brandon Traynor does get himself the perfect launch and does get himself the race lead and does get himself the victory, this will go down as one of the greatest performances ever in the iRacing Indy 500, because all of the cards are now stacked against Traynor. But also for Watkins, this could be probably one of the most emotional moments I think I've called in the iRacing Indy 500 since I started commentating this race in 2013.
Well, this is reminiscent of the last race I did with you. We had a 1-lap shootout. The leader lost the lead down the back straightaway and then regained it off of 4. Tires do not matter when you're doing 160 into turn 1. So Traynor has that going for him. Should he take the lead down the back, where it's going to hurt Traynor is turn 4. Watkins is going to have the maneuverability. Traynor is going to be really on. He's going to have to nail the entry, but he's really not going to have the flexibility to block a run or shake the draft or give Tanner dirty air. Tanner's going to be able to run that second or third lane in 3 and 4 on the white, maybe do the over-under in turn 4. I like Watkins' maneuverability, but if there's any time old tires don't matter, it's going to be the first 2 turns on the first lap of a restart.
Rob, we're going to come to the yard of bricks. Those lights are gone out. I need some fuzzies right now.
This is unbelievable. Think about the mindset, the shift of Tanner Watkins. He spent, 20 laps or thinking about nothing but fuel save. What can I do here? I'm trying to win this. I got to hit the fuel number. He's trying to hit his mark every time. He hits the pit lane. He has to flick that switch and go full aggression mode. He does that, gets to the front, and now he's all about just trying to keep himself calm, Will, because as you know, we're going to have ourselves an incredible run here at the very end. Tanner Watkins, as you said, loves this program, loves the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and loves the iRacing Indy 500. He is within a lap and a half of winning this event, bringing it to victory lane. This is going to be one of the coolest finishes I've ever been part of.
Pressure, Will.
The only thing I can think about.
Now,
you go.
I wish we could see what the beats per minute were of our top 5. It's one thing to be out front doing fuel mileage. You're focused. Right now, as we're about 40 seconds from green, they can feel every heartbeat. They're feeling their veins pulse. Don't make a mistake. If they have a spotter watching, tell them, make sure the car's in first gear. Hit your gear changes. Don't forget what you've done 199 previous times.
The only thing I can compare this to is Alabama-Clemson, part 1. Alabama, the dynasty, and that is exactly what this Broken Arrow team is. They are the dynasty of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Brandon Traynor, of course, running as part of RLR Esport here today. But you know what? Clemson is Tanner Watkins. Pace car is going to pull on towards pit road. The white and the green are going to come out at exactly the same time. 2.5 miles left of racing to go. Tanner Watkins picks up the pace then. 1 more lap to go in the 2020 iRacing Indianapolis 500 down in towards turn number 1. They come for the first time and in towards turn number 2 for the final time in this motor race. Has Brandon Traynor got the draft? Oh my word, he has. He goes down to the inside in towards turn number 3. Traynor to the race lead and Tanner Watkins trying to go alongside him in towards turn 3, but it's not going to happen. Brandon Traynor is 2 corners away from making iRacing Indy 500 history, but it's going to be another photo finish once again here. Look at the weaving, look at the dancing going on. Oh my word, Watkins spun around. Traynor is going to become the first ever 2-time winner of the iRacing Indianapolis 500 Brandon Traino won in 2019. Brandon Traino with a pass on the last lap down in towards turn number 3 gets his second victory in a row, and he has now got himself into iRacing Sim Racing Immortality. Brandon Traino for RLR Esports has won 2 iRacing Indianapolis 500s in a row. And just 2 minutes ago, we were talking about the dream for Tanner Watkins on that Team Talent with Watkins Motorsports Group car, but it all came to a crushing halt on the exit of turn number 4. We'll get a replay of that at the moment, but let's have a look first at Brandon Traino, because of course it is donut time at the start-finish line. Rob, you couldn't write that.
You know, for me, watching the run that Traino got out of turn number 2, I was blown away by how much forward bite he had. It almost was like Tanner Watkins on that final lap. Kind of lightly went through turn number 2, didn't commit fully to it because the draft was so much. He just ate him up all the way down the back straightaway and make the move. And then you could see coming out of turn number 4, it seemed to be like Watkins had a good enough run, but he kind of had to check up a little bit. And then, of course, then the block moved to the inside, the move to the outside, more contact. Wow, that's, you said it. You cannot write that. It's not what we would have expected, but what a tremendous end to the 2020 iRacing Indianapolis 500.
And you know what, Aaron, I was just saying about Alabama versus Clemson. Dynasty. Alabama-esque there. Brandon Traino for Broken Arrow, that entire organization. I think now they have cemented themselves at the top of the iRacing IndyCar mountain for years to come, as we see the replay on the last lap.
Yeah, this you can analyze this last lap so many ways. As we went green, I thought Watkins had too big of a lead. You know the draft is coming. You know you're going to get passed on the back straightaway, more than likely, unless third and second battle. That would have been what Watkins needed. As Traino goes by here, Watkins knows he's a sitting duck. He could throw a block. That would throw Brophy potentially as the race leader. So Traino takes the lead. Watkins' mistake here was his timing. In 3, he should have been high. You want that same thing that Traino did to you. You want to get a big run. Getting this close in 4, he mistimed it by about half a second. Half a second later, he wouldn't have been jammed on Traino's rear. Great sportsmanship, though. I gotta say, Watkins could have thrown the chrome horn. He could have attempted to go through Traino. He respected him. So, heartbreaking for Watkins, but great sportsmanship there.
But Rob, after 11 years, I can finally say we have a 2-time winner of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Brandon Traino not only wins back-to-back, but is the first driver ever to win 2 iRacing Indy 500 top broadcaster splits. And I mean, that's something that, well, the greats of IndyCar, the likes of Tim Dahl, the likes of Young O, the likes of John Paquin, the likes of everyone else over the years, Tim Holgate, who's won this race before, they've never had the chance to say that. Brandon Traino can claim now he is a 2-time iRacing Indy 500 champion, and that is an accomplishment that, in my opinion, ranks up there at the very top of iRacing esports drivers.
Yeah, and even add to it, Will, back-to-back jacks as well. The guy's the king of the bricks for sure. What a tremendous run for him. Really handled that last lap well, nailed turn 3 and nailed turn 4, and I think Aaron really detailed it perfectly. If Tanner went a little higher in turn number 3, gave himself a bit more room, he just had to check up, needed to give a little more room to be able to come through turn number 4. We could have saw potentially a photo finish for the win here, but Brandon Traino made that move to the inside, the defensive move, which really set really everything in place at that point. Tremendous run for Traino. Back-to-back wins, man, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's historic for sure.
And it is the Rahal Lesman Lanigan racing car of Brandon Traino, who claims victory by, well, 3 tenths of a second at the end, but you know what? Timings don't mean a thing at the end of this race. Over Jeff Drake and the Grant King Racers with Team Talent car. Yoel Verde comes home 3rd place, Jason Brophy in 4th, and Zach Campbell rounds out your top 5. Tanner Watkins does finish 6th at the end, but that's going to be bitter bittersweet for him, because to tell you what, Watkins had that strategy almost nailed to the tee, but he just got it wrong in some crucial moments at the end of this race. Henry Bennett, P number 7, Stephen Remedy in P8, AJ Burton in 9th, and Chad Simpson rounds out your top 10. The rest of those results come up on your screen right now, and it does seem to be every year, Aaron, we end up, and again, 11 iRacing Indy 500s, all finishing under green, but 11 iRacing Indy 500s, all with some absolutely spectacular last laps. And this one, well, this one you couldn't write. You couldn't even think about it, because it had so much riding on it from Trano, so much riding it for Tanner Watkins. I'm sure that the people watching on social media, they're in one camp or another. But in terms of storylines, in terms of excitement, again, it just rewrites the history books every single year.
This race had everything you'd want as a race fan. It had crazy strategy. It had that long green run. Thinking about the emotions of Trano and Watkins, both drivers seemed at different points of the race to have the race in hand. Then you had Constantini, absolutely dominated, knocked out of the race on lap 196. Had everything, and that's one thing. You can do league races, you can race in official stuff. There is no simulating what your heart and brain do to you when you think you've won the biggest race you're going to be in all year. When that yellow came out on lap 196, Watkins, for a brief second, it's like, oh my goodness, I did it. I've won. Then lap 198 comes and you get the message, 2 laps to green. You have to reverse your thought. Trano, same thing. That yellow comes out, he's like, I don't have a chance. This race is over. Then 1 lap to go, the brain goes, what can I do to win? So there is no simulating what your entire iRacing career can do. It cannot simulate what a 1-lap shootout in the Indy 500 will give you.
And that's the thing, Rob. This race, it did us, it takes us away. And you know what? We already Aaron's talked about this, and I've talked about it before. This track has a say in who wins and who doesn't. Sometimes luck is not on your side. Sometimes luck is on your side. And for Brandon Trano, there was a little bit of luck, but actually those last couple of laps, that was all about car placement, because he did everything absolutely perfectly. He actually, in my opinion, allowed Watkins to get that jump at the white flag, because he knew that by doing so, he'll give himself the inside line out of turn 2 and the draft on the back straightaway that he needed to seal the deal.
Yeah, you know, that's very likely. Of course, a guy like Brandon Trano, who's won this race before, he understands the strategy. He understands what he has to do on the final circuit. He needs to have enough of a room to get the draft and make sure not to be able to get drafted past again going into turn number 3 or potentially set himself up for an issue in turn 4. He handled the car placement perfectly the entire final lap. The move coming out of turn number 4, then immediately the defensive move to the inside had pushed Watkins into making that secondary move for him. Again, losing more of that forward drive off of turn number 4. Just a tremendous run for Brandon Trano for sure. I'll tell you this. I don't care if it's the real-life Indianapolis 500 or the iRacing Indianapolis 500. We're talking about 33 very talented drivers putting on a show for us. I've been on pit lane for 4 Indy 500s with IndyCar Radio. This is my first with you guys here at Race Spot. Thank you so much for bringing me on. But Will, my hands are still shaking right now. I don't care what it is. That's the end of the Indianapolis 500. My hands are literally still trembling. Just an exciting finish, and wow, what a race from start to finish.
I always say that this is the most fun I ever have commentating all year long. And even though we don't, have the chance in a week's time that we normally do, see the Indy 500, that's delayed for a couple of months because of what's going on in the world right now. My word, what a great race. And we hope that you've enjoyed it. But of course, with that, we now get to talk to Brandon Trano. And Brandon, it gives me great pleasure to say congratulations on being the first ever 2-time winner of the iRacing Indianapolis 500.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. It's great to be back in victory lane here.
2 in a row, 2 victories, the first driver ever to do it. It all seemed at one point in those last 30 laps, it was all up in the air with strategy and confusion, a couple of cautions at the end. When did you actually think that you had it in the bag?
Yeah, like you said, I honestly never thought we had it in the bag. We pitted off sequence because Blocker and Henry and the rest of those guys were trying to save fuel, so we didn't want them to be in our draft and hopefully make it. So we just pitted off sequence, ran as fast as we possibly could in clean air, and that caution came out at the end and kind of threw everything up in the air once more. But yeah, honestly, even with that one lap shootout, I didn't think I had it.
So talk us through it. You were getting yourself alongside on the back straightaway, past Hannah Watkins. Of course, you still have turn 3 and 4 to come. Of course, you won this race by 13 1,000ths of a second last year. What was your thinking coming out of turn number 4?
That I had too big of a lead. I thought about, trying to lift a little bit as I went by them, but I just came off of turn 4 and just, hope for the best. I threw a pretty aggressive block, but I think anybody in my situation would have done the same thing. It's the Indy 500.
Now, we talk about the fact that you are the first ever 2-time winner of the broadcasted iRacing Indianapolis 500. That puts you above a list of drivers who, let's be honest, is a who's who of iRacing IndyCar history. How does it feel to not only win back-to-back, but to be making that historic moment?
It feels pretty good. I'm not going to lie. The guys at I5G put together a hell of a car this year. Me and Michele Constantini put over 6,000 laps and probably over 100 hours together over the last couple months, and it shows. Everybody over there we did a lot of setup work to try to get this car right, and I think we did pretty damn good.
Final question, what type of milk are you drinking tonight?
You got to go whole, right? Go big or go home?
Go big or go home. Well, before we let you go, shout out to sponsors who gets it done for you and your team. Yeah,
first off, I just want to thank Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan Racing for coming on board for this one race. I'm pretty sure that's a good way to debut their car. So thanks for them. Just all the guys at I5G, like always. We just put so much work into this race, and it really shows. And I think we were the dominant car again, just like every year.
Well, thank you very much, Brandon Traynor, then a 2-time iRacing Indianapolis 500 winner. And yep, that's one of the first times we've ever been able to say that. Coming home second place is Jeff Drake, and he stood by with Aaron Likens.
Jeff, coming home second. On that final restart, is there anything you could have done differently to get one spot closer to the top?
I'll be thinking about that for another year, right? But first of all, I'd like to give a shout out real quick to my grandmother and my mother. They're both watching. It's their first iRacing Indianapolis 500. So that's very cool. But, when it came to the final restart, I knew, I had a teammate in Tanner who was leading, who was on fresh tires, the same strategy as me against Traino, who I think had 15-lap older tires. And I knew at that point it was just going to be a dogfight between those two. And then maybe Brophy was going to get involved, but at that point I don't think I could have done anything differently. The incident that came to the line, I was somewhat anticipating that, but I was hoping it'd be for all 3 cars and I could sneak on by. But you know what? As of right now, I haven't seen the replay, but I don't think there's anything really too different I could have done there.
Looking at the lap graph, I think you were near the front, near the back, near the front, near the back. We had that long green flag run. When you're really all over the field, how do you keep your mindset on keeping your strategy and not panicking?
So what happened was I was running top 10 for the first 2 stints. I picked up a speeding penalty. I went a lap down. I was floating around P30. At that point, you really have to just rely on the team to keep you going. You're in constant communication with them. They're in constant communication with me. And then I was also working with teammates, trying to figure things out, giving them drafts so they can get a little bit fuel mileage, getting them synced up to different packs. So there was a lot of strategy involved, even for being a lap down. And I'll be honest, at that point, I thought I was just going to be a teammate assistant for the rest of the day. I didn't think P2 would have been possible.
Finishing P2 today, how long of a wait is it going to be for the 2021 iRacing Indy 500?
It's always a wait, man. It's getting to the point now where you always feel like you're the bridesmaid, never the bride. I had a P3 back in 2018, which was to a teammate who won. That was Chin, so still very cool. On top of that, I remember in Tanner Watkins' iRacing Indy 500 book, I had the best average finish out of any top split driver with more than a few starts. So it's getting to be a little disappointing at this point. But at the end of the day, at P2 at Indianapolis, especially considering the circumstances 100 laps prior, it's a good thing, but you always want more.
Yeah, you reading that stat off really remind me of hearing Donald Davidson on the radio in the month of May talking who has the best average finish of so many drivers. Good job here today. Second place, who would you like to thank?
Well, again, I would like to thank firstly my grandmother and my mother for tuning in today, because they've helped me do so much. My mom actually got me started on iRacing as a gift. But on top of that, I have team talent to thank immensely. Grant King Racers came on board, Indy Simulation, both based out of Indianapolis, have been great partners with me, and they're about to do some amazing things in the upcoming months. So I'm so grateful that not only they saw this iRacing as a possibility and an opportunity, but they decided to include me into it, and for that I'm forever grateful. But, everyone on the team as well, Liam, Tanner, Josh, I'm not even going to go down the entire list because I'm going to forget a bunch of people, but truly everyone who is involved in that team, they are my great friends, and I'm so grateful for all of them.
Well, helping his average finish, but will 2021 be the year that he finally gets first?
Well, you know what, of course, Rob, that Dan Weldon, in between winning his first and his second Indy 500, he had, what was it, like a third, a second, and a second in a row? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Well, that happens. We talked about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway picking its winner every so often. So, listen, when you're a driver like Jeff Drake, if you are constantly in the middle of the fight, you're constantly putting yourself in a position to have that chance to win, it's going to come your way sooner or later. He has a great run to P2. Just a tremendous race for him. Let's have a quick chat, though, with João Valverde. João, up and down race for you guys, a lot of strategy. Can you walk us through a little bit of how your strategy kind of played out throughout the entire 200 laps?
Well, my strategy was basically just to run laps and see where I would be about 50 to go. Things just out of dumb luck faced our way, and that's the result we got. Pretty happy.
Let's walk through that final lap, too. That was one I think we were all kind of holding our breath. Of course, Tanner Watkins getting that jump, and then Brandon Traino getting right in there. What did your last lap look like? We were kind of looking more to the front and some of the craziness. You obviously had a great seat to see it all. What was the look coming out of turn number 2 down to 3?
It was interesting. My spotter, Liam, was just telling me, don't lift, don't lift, don't lift. And coming out to 4, I just saw cars up in the air, went to the left wall, and that was it.
So you end up P3 here at the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Let's just talk a little bit about the emotion of that. I know you guys put in so much work for this particular event. I don't think people understand how many laps you guys turn and the team working to get the setup correctly, both qualifying and a race setup. What's the emotion right now, being able to come away from this particular race you put so much time into with a third-place finish?
I'm pretty damn proud of the team. They did an absolutely immense job. The preparation, the dedication they had was, to be honest, way, way bigger than what I had. So it's their result, not really mine, in a sense.
Yeah, good to see a couple of guys from Team Talent getting into the top 3. Let me give you the opportunity to talk about your sponsors, talk about the team. Let's name some names of some of the guys that make this happen for you.
Well, John, Liam, Austin, Chin. Like Jeff said, it's such a long list. I'm going to forget about someone. So thank you, all of them. They were absolutely epic.
João, congratulations. P3 in the iRacing Indianapolis 500. A tremendous run for you. Well done.
Thanks, boys.
Well, Will, again, you watch that. We were watching the onboard with João Valverde coming out of turn number 4. Talk about a crazy finish. Contact in front of him. He's able to go to the left. All about reaction time at the end. But, man, after 200 laps, it came down to an absolute thrilling exclamation point coming across the yard of bricks.
You know what? The old ESPN, ABC guys, you say you do a length of a football field in a second. But your top 5 drivers separated by less than 1 second. That just shows you how close the racing was, despite the fact that we had a crash coming to the checkered flag as well. We've got ourselves P number 4 here, Jason Brophy, and part of the team Misfit Racing. And well, Jason, those last couple of laps, again, we've got to put it into perspective for you, because you were good in terms of tyres compared to some of the people around you. But talk us through that. What happened to you on that final lap of the run to the checkered flag?
Sure. I got caught off guard. Tanner went early there on that restart at the end, and I wasn't quite ready for it. I was kind of expecting the late one. I had some left side pod damage from an earlier wreck, not from hitting a car, but hitting the grass. So I had to, be on it if I was going to be able to be close enough. I think they started to slow up in 4. I had a good run, but I didn't have enough for run to get to Trano, especially once I got in the clean air. I think Tanner wasn't quite aware how far up I was there, and we got together and went flying across the finish line. So all in all, pretty good.
We always talk about, if you're not first at Indy, well, you're not always worth remembering. But in terms of, oh my God, I just saw that crash again from your perspective, going up and over. You literally went upside down past the start-finish line there. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, right, no one's lifting. You're coming to the finish line for an Indy 500. This is my first time being in the top split one. Of course, we're all keeping the foot down. And well, obviously I got launched, and so I think I was second when I got launched, but it turns out flying is not actually that fast, especially in an Indy car, so I ended up crossing the line 4th. Hey, it's just one of those that this is what's going to happen. Once it was a 1-lap shootout, people are going to go for it, right? There's not going to be, even on that second to last caution, obviously, or the second to last run, everybody's pushing. There's an Indy 500 on the line. You got to go for it. So,
well, Team Misfit coming home, P number 4 here today. Shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you?
I want to thank my teammates Matt Hullabaugh, Stefan Remedy, Adam Crane, and I need to actually thank Team Talent, because I'm going to be working with those guys here. So, I was running really as much with them. Worked on some changes to set last night. Obviously, i5G had it. Apex had it down today, but you never know in the Indy 500, and we got pretty close, so I'm quite happy with that. As my first broadcast one, a lot better than last night. So,
well, thank you very much there, Jason Brophy, coming home, P number 4. Going to round out your top 5. Going to hand it over to Rob, and he's got himself the driver of the Rahal Lederman Lanigan racing car of Zach Campbell.
Hey, Zach, congratulations on a tremendous run today. You got to be overall pretty happy. A P5 finish, but man, you and the entire team really kind of the class of the field for majority of that race. You ran in the top 5 for, I want to say, a majority of the run, all the 200 laps. Talk us through first the very start of the race. It seemed like you guys really had things set up pretty nicely.
Yeah, I mean, how about it? We ended up, I think our plan was just to get in line, kind of ride there, just see what we could do at the start. And, for those first 110 laps, we went caution-free. We just kind of pulled away, and it shook out really well. I didn't feel like I left 5th the whole race, because I had Trano, Chris, Michele, and I think it was Scott up there, too. We just all kind of rode in line, just sat there, and everyone on i5G did an unbelievable job. Every year we try and come together for this, and just really kind of stick our necks out there and show, we are some of the best guys at it and out there. And hopefully we showed that today. It means a lot to come here and perform like that, more than I think anyone could even imagine.
Zach, the storyline kept changing on us. Will and Aaron and I, we were just on the edge of our seat, because at one point it looked like it was going to be a straight run, potentially through green to checker. Then we started getting some yellows, and then we had Tanner Watkins trying to fuel run at the end. What were your thoughts? What was the team saying, the spotters saying, when it looked like you guys may not be able to get up front with Tanner kind of pedaling it home?
So when we stayed out there was just this collective sigh in our Discord. Everyone thought it was over, because we were just going to pit, and there was going to be a caution. We were going to be 18th through 22nd. But thankfully that caution never came. Everyone just kind of, you could feel the spirits perking up as we continued down through that run. And really, it just kind of kept changing, and we had to meet it. I feel awful for Michele. He put in more work than you could even imagine for this race, and my heart breaks for him, just being put in that situation with a few laps to go, and just things happen, and he'll be back next year, and he'll be strong. But Treno winning is just, it's incredible. I think it was with this Rahal deal coming together with everyone over there. I think it was a little meant to be, and I'm glad the Indy gods kind of looked down on us and smiled today.
Well, I'm sure Bobby Rahal will have a smile on his face here as well, as will Graham and the whole crew over at Rahal, Letterman Lanigan. And Michele, as you said, a tremendous run for him. He definitely made his mark on the race. He and Brandon were strong up front. Let's cap things off with you, Zach. You end up with a 5th place finish. That final lap, come on. It was absolutely unbelievable. You were in a great position to watch kind of what was happening. Talk about the start when you went back to green, and talk about that last run coming out of turn number 4, because you were able to kind of work your way through some chaos to get your P5 finish.
I swear, they were trying to wreck everywhere in front of me. I think in the span of about 15 laps, we had 3 crashes happen right in front of me, and thankfully we got across the line before I crashed at the end there. So it was a little nicer, shall we say? But really, just kind of watching everything. I mean, I enjoyed it. As a spectator back there, I really wasn't racing anymore. I just held it flat from the restart and couldn't catch anyone. So I was just watching everything going on up there, and they put on a great show. I really hope everyone enjoyed it, and it was truly a blast.
Zach, I know you've had a chance to bring up a couple of names. You guys carry in the RLLR eSport logo and colors here, this particular event. Let's give you one last time to talk about the sponsors, talk about the people that make all of this happen for you guys.
Yeah, I just want to take a minute, thank Total, Tom German, United Rentals, Honda, everyone at Rahal, Letterman Lanigan, along with everyone at Indy 500 Group. I can go down our Discord right now. Kevin Ellis Jr., I know he got taken out early. Michele, Johan, Steele, Lichtenberg, Pavelski, everybody. Sorry if I missed anyone. Scott McLaughlin, of course. Everyone came together for this event. I've never experienced anything like this week on iRacing. It was truly something special, something really incredible, and hopefully we can come back and do it again next year.
Zach, onwards and upwards. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Well, very well-spoken young man, and what a tremendous effort by the RLL eSport team. Man, he went through the lineup of drivers. You and I and Aaron were saying those names for a majority of these 200 laps, because they really put on a show here for us at this year's iRacing IndyCar 500. Man, just tremendous racing, tremendous drivers, and great to get a chance to talk to them at the end of the race.
You know what, Rob? There's only one thing I miss about that RLL car. There's no steak and shake on it.
That's true. We need to get the steak and shake on that car. No doubt.
Yeah. And if you ever go to the Indianapolis 500, you need to make sure you go to downtown Indiana. Go at night, because you can get a 7x7 patty. It's $7.77. It will give you a coronary heart attack at some point, but you know what? The greatest burger you will ever have in your life, Rob.
It's Americana for sure. I'm a burger guy. I normally make at least one stop to Steak and Shake when I'm in Indiana.
But to kind of wrap things up here, because we've got ourselves, just about 5 minutes before we go off air here, Aaron. What a race once again. And you know what? On one hand, again, I talked about the kind of Alabama versus Clemson, and I think that really was the analogy that I would like to continue to use. Watkins was the kind of Clemson, but Brandon Treno, the RLL, the Broken Arrow, the kind of I5G Apex Racing Team partnership, they are the Alabama of sim racing Indy 500s right now. They have created a dynasty.
Yeah, if you want to go further, Watkins was very much like Clemson, always in the mix for, say, let's go back 5 years and then talk about the previous 10. Watkins moved up through the field. He was in the early stages, running 10th, 11th. Then the final half of the race, we talked about wanting that perfect strategy and that you have to predict the future. He had nailed it.
And of course, the only sad thing for us here, Rob, is because normally the fact that we do this broadcast and we're all pumped up for the Indy 500, which will be taking place, of course, normally next week. And by this time, we finish our broadcast, we hop over to, well, it used to be ESPN ABC, now we go over to NBC, we see the qualifications, we see that on Sunday, you know, the battle for the top 33, we then see Carb Day, we then see the Legends Day, we see the race next Sunday. And that race as well is also part of what I always like to call the greatest day in motorsport. You start off with the Monaco Grand Prix, champagne for breakfast, milk for lunch, with the Indy 500, and a barbecue for the Coke 600 for tea or dinner, depending how you call it in America. That's not going to happen this year. But the thing is, in my eyes, is that the fact we still got a sim racing alternative to the Indy 500 whilst we wait to late summer, which is going to be a very different race, of course. The Indy 500 in late summer is going to be a very, very different race to what we're used to. But the fact we've still got the sim racing, iRacing Indy 500, it's some form of normality in our schedule.
Yeah, and for me as well, personally, as you know, I would have spent the majority of the month of May in Indianapolis at the Speedway, first for the IndyCar Grand Prix weekend, then for pole qualifying and bump day, and then for my 5th Indianapolis 500 with the Pennzoil IndyCar Radio Network. So that, for me, is why I'm so thankful that you've invited me to come and be part of your lineup for the 11th running of the iRacing Indy 500 here on RaceSpot. I do a number of other things with you guys as well. Love working with your whole crew. But yeah, this is it, right? We'd love to be going right into the meat of the order, as it were, for the Indianapolis 500, but that's going to have to wait till August. Bottom line is everybody in the motorsports community is safe and healthy. That's what we want to see. We're going to be going back racing with IndyCar in a couple of weeks' time at Texas Motor Speedway on June the 6th. Then, of course, rolling through the schedule. We've had to be flexible. We've had to make some move, had to make some changes. Big thanks to, of course, having Roger Penske on now as the owner of IndyCar and, of course, the caretaker of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well. We don't know what things would have looked like had Roger and his expertise and his staff and his wherewithal come in to kind of be the guy to center point this now. So I think looking forward, we're going to have a really interesting season. Again, the Indianapolis 500 in August, Will, you named it. It's going to be something completely different. Yeah, it's not going to be May. It's going to be August. It's going to be hot. This track changes so much with the weather. It's going to be such a unique weekend when we get down there in August. But the bottom line is the Indy 500 will run again this year in 2020. It will tell a story. The track will again pick a winner, just like it did here again today. And I'll tell you, again, I've been involved in a number of Indy 500s. This one, just as excited as I was for those because the storylines, how they developed, Tanner Watkins almost winning, Brandon Traino ended up getting the victory. We heard from all the guys that finished in the top 5. This race means a lot to a lot of people, and you can add me to that group now as well.
So that is all we got time for here today, here on the iRacing Esports Network across social media. The top 10 up along the top of your screens. One more time. It's Brandon Traino. He becomes a 2-time iRacing Indianapolis 500 champion for the first time ever in iRacing Indy 500 history. Jeff Drake, 2nd place. Yelvavade, 3rd. Jason Brophy in 4th, and Zach Campbell rounds out your top 5. Tanner Watkins was leading coming to the white flag lap, but you know what? He was just unlucky, and the draft was not working in his favor as Traino passed him, and on the run to the checkered flag, things didn't go to plan. He ends up in P number 6. Next week, go and get yourself a glass of champagne. Go and get yourself a glass of milk. Go and make yourself a barbecue. Make sure that you enjoy Memorial Day weekend and make sure that actually you think about all those people who are working so hard to make sure that we can go back to racing as soon as possible. I'd like to say thank you to Isfan Bala, TrackCamera22.com, to Hugo Louise, who not only has been working behind the scenes here today, but does so much for RaceSpot TV, and also as a part of our work with Penske and Verizon just a couple of days ago, as we broke viewership records for the Verizon Pay It Forward Live event with Team Penske. Let's say thank you also to Elio Castroneves from Team Penske for giving the starting command here today, to the 33 drivers who's been a part of this fantastic, exhilarating race here today, and of course, to Rob Howden from IndyCar Radio, and to Aaron Likens, who's done about as many iRacing Indy 500s as I have over the years. Brandon Trono becomes the first two-time winner of this event, and all I can say is thank you so much for watching. Month of May might be a little bit different this year, but one thing is certain, we've had a fantastic race, a fantastic finish, and as ever, it all came down to that final corner. Goodbye from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and thank you for being a part of our broadcast here on RaceSpot TV and on iRacing.